Hello, Dave. Today is Saturday, the 5th of March, 2022. I am the Bro 9000, and I trust you are all very well today. The big news this week is I now have a memory upgrade and are now running fiber broadband. Yay! 2 items of news this week, which we will discuss in a moment. Shall we get the guests out? I think we should. Hello, everybody. First up, he's from New York, but so good we named him twice. Start spreading the news. He's not leaving today. It's Picard.
Hello. Have you been upgraded? Now you like Picard now? You've now been turned into a robot, but you're exactly the same.
Yes, but my internet connection is faster.
Oh, so you have some Borg upgrades
Borg
then.
technology going on, yes.
Excellent.
How is Picard? Are you well, my friend?
Yeah, no major complaints. Just excited to talk about a classic, gritty 70s movie.
Yeah, in your hometown. Did you enjoy yourself last week?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Great panel, great chat, and fantastic movie.
Yeah, I think the show was genuinely a lot better for me not being on it.
No.
You could tell you lot were enjoying yourself.
That's true. I won't deny that.
I will just say you all did a wonderful job. I listened to it this week a couple of times, and the love was shining through the screen. So everything good in Land of Picard, yes?
So far, so good.
You know what my next question is, don't you?
Bring out the next guest.
Yes, let's bring out the next body. Right, okay. By the way, this guy has totally produced today's show, so we salute you. Set your Jedi Power Wands to stunning and brave, your Photoshop automation to full power, and he's recently been to Wuhan in China, don't you know? We have the wonderful Mr. Brian.
Hey, evening Brune, evening Peacat, evening chat. How are we all?
You're right, pal.
I'm not too
you?
bad, thank you.
Good effort for doing the show today, mate. Appreciate that.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to it. I hope it's going to be a good one.
If I may, good evening, Dermot. Before you ask, I have asked again, mate. I'll stick with it, buddy. I'm doing my best. So, you good? Yes, Brian?
Yes, thank you very much.
You had a good time last week?
Yeah, it was quite the experience. Bit of a rush, a few technical difficulties, we'll say, at the very start, but we got there in the end. I had such a good panel, it made it very, very easy.
Yeah, it's a good stream. As I said to Picard, the love came through the LCD screen. So well done on that, mate. So
Yes.
My next question is, don't you?
Shall we get the next guest out, shall we?
Yes, let's get the next body out. He's back by popular demand, meaning me. One half of the poshest sounding duo on YouTube since the two Ronnies ruled the airwave or waves. It's the wonderful Lost. I finally got my Picard video uploaded to YouTube. Chord. And he's muted.
I've not muted. I remember to unmute myself. How are you?
Hello, sir. I'm okay. Are you good?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm not too bad.
How's the Land of Picard?
It's good. I mean, I did battle with CBS's oversensitive and I think semi-drunk copyright bot, and eventually got a version of it up, which it just made no sense. They had no problem with me clipping extensively from relevant parts of an episode, but clipping from the opening titles of that episode was not allowed. So I just bamboozled the bot with some text asking the bot a question, and it didn't flag it up after that. So eventually it was done. I'd like to say it was all worth it, but time will tell.
So what you're saying is you finally got it up.
Yes, I finally got it up. Unlike Picard, who he just can't anymore.
I will just quickly say, Cruel Birab, hello mate. I envy you. I think we all do.
Yes.
I have seen it, and I envy them too.
We'll just absorb that for a moment. Well done, Cruel. Well done, mate. That's good. That's a good effort. Taking one for the team. Well done, mate. So everything well with you, Lost Chord, yes?
Yes, yep. Otherwise, all good.
Appreciate you coming on tonight, mate. I know you was pushed, so appreciate that. You know what my next question is, don't you?
Shall we get the next guest out?
Indeed. And last, but by no means least, he's the wise elder of the channel, the writer, the portal, director, paid up member of the Self-Cheers Appreciation Society. He's the great Mega Geek himself, and he's got a lot to say about this one. It's Ian David Diaz. Yep.
Hello, everybody. How are we today?
Good. Are you?
I'm all right. Looking forward to getting stuck into one of my favourite movies.
You like this one, don't you?
I really like this film. This film's an amazing film. A lot of people don't realise how good this film is, and I will explain when I
here we
get
go,
the chance.
just for you. MC, hello MC, hail
Hello,
Mega Geek.
MC.
There you go.
How you doing, matey?
There you go.
Well,
I'll quickly go back to Cruel as well. I'm not into self-torture. Otherwise, I'd watch that shite.
I don't. Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate.
We've reached the point though where there's very little I wouldn't do for subscribers. So
you sell out,
and I need very little.
Maybe I should subscribe to your channel, shouldn't I? That's crazy. I haven't done it. Maybe I should do it now.
Yeah, it's called brazzers.com.
What's it called? What's it called?
It is the Little Platoon.
Oh, okay.
Somebody put a link up to Ben's channel, please. Please, boys and girls. In the private chat or the normal chat. Okay, so everybody's well, yes?
All good, thank you.
Absolutely.
I think we're just, as I said, just two snippets of news this week, and then we'll get into the film. So here we go. So obviously, Mr. Brown Alliance, please like, share, and subscribe. And apparently, leaving a comment in the comments box afterwards helps the channel. Apparently. So here we go.
Ugh.
Ah, yes. This one's for you, Cruel. Who would like to start first? First of all, who's seen this episode?
I have seen it.
Anybody else?
No, I'm avoiding new Trek now.
No, not at all.
Look at you. So, Lost Chord, what did you think?
I think that bodes well. I mean,
There won't be spoilers, by the way.
Series 1 achieved about a viewer per $1 million spent on the episode. So the fact that only one of us here has actually seen it means this is also on track. So I think they actually had more money to spend on this as well.
I've seen this.
You've seen, I would say, two out of 5. My math is going to fail me because I've literally just got him. But they're probably still spending about $1.5 million per viewer of this series. It was, weirdly enough, as a standalone episode, if you ignore everything that happened previously, and also you ignore where it's going, and also you lower your standards, then it was not actually that bad an episode. And probably of all the new Trek stuff that's come out, it's probably the best episode, singular episode, if you treat it as a standalone thing.
Yeah.
At parts, it even felt like a Star Trek show. It was still dumb as hell, and the writing didn't make a huge amount of sense. But it looked good, and it wasn't as destructive as anything in Series 1 or anything in Discovery, and it wasn't as preachy either. Unfortunately, and as I say in my video, you can't take it on its own because it is setting up a truly disastrous premise where they go back to the 21st century because they have to save us from ourselves. If you thought it was preachy before, wait until it arrives in our timeline. And also, you can't ignore what happened previously, because though the writers try, it is a continuation, and there are certain aspects to character development and progression which just don't make sense unless you recall the disaster that happened in season 1 even. So yeah, if you ignore all of those things, I think it's probably the best new Trek episode there has been, but it was still not great. And then when you don't ignore it, it's still pretty terrible. So I can't exactly blame people for not having seen it.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. My thoughts were season 1 of Picard, I didn't even get halfway through episode 2 and I bailed. So I've not even seen the worst of it.
I think I will reiterate that I will not watch and support Kurtzman Trek because he has literally destroyed Star Trek. And I understand why you have to do it, Lost Chord, because of your channel, and understand why people do. But real Star Trek fans should not be supporting this kind of nonsense at all.
Again, I would agree.
And it's
it
and
was
that's
a morbid
my stance.
curiosity. See,
Yeah,
thing is, I like Q. I've always liked
look,
Q. Q's
he's
great.
not Q, but it's not Q. It's not Q from the Star Trek world. This is just another crappy version of a really good character.
It's LGBTQ.
Well, why would I support the people that destroyed Star
You're
Trek?
right.
That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
See, why would anyone support the person that destroyed Star Trek? And make no thing about it. He did destroy Star Trek, so that's my thing.
He did. Did anybody sign the petition about making Kurtzman Trek non-canon?
Well, the thing is, it for things like that, it's in your mind, isn't it? You know, if I don't accept it as canon, I don't need the world to tell me that this is canon and tell me that I'm wrong. I'm entitled to my opinions, and you can't change my mind in my head. So
We would
in my
never
head,
try
this is
to do
just,
that now.
this is not canon at all for me. You know, but good luck to everybody who thinks it is.
Well,
So.
petitions are a good way of gauging like the opinion of
hatred.
people whose opinions you already know. Petitions don't reveal anything new to you. They don't influence people's decisions. They never do. I never signed petitions anyway. One of my favorite ones was ages ago. Something like 3 million people signed a petition to get the government of China to ban people eating dog meat. And it's like, they don't even give their own people a vote. Why are they going to listen to some random fuckers on the internet? It's not going to happen.
Starve.
But the idea that you can just retcon Kurtzman Trek is like the idea you can retcon the sequel trilogy. It's a nice thing to believe in, but it is something. It's fundamentally a belief system. It's a faith position. It's never going to actually happen. So
No, it's not. But what we can do is not support it. That's what we can do as fans.
Cruel is coming in with a mic drop at 13 minutes.
Star Trek, which one?
Original Star Trek.
Original. Right, the original. Yeah.
Lost Chord, have you seen the original Star Trek?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. My dad's a fan, so it's on television occasionally. Like, I've seen bits and pieces of most of the different series, but like, despite having done videos on it, I've never been the biggest Star Trek fan in the world. I've always been more of a Star Wars person, but I've got much more into it since I started doing it. Weirdly enough, Discovery is the one I've seen the most of, and that's a tragic position to be in.
My friend, I think you need to watch some of the original stuff too.
I've seen quite a lot of it.
Yeah, it's all very well putting these videos out, but you need something to fundamentally compare it to.
Well, that's sort of been the point for the whole thing, because I have seen quite a lot of them. Like, I've never sat down systemically to watch them, but over the course of years, I've probably seen more than 3/4 of the original series and at least 2/3 of the Next Generation. So I have the points of comparison to make. It's just it's never been a thing I've sat down consciously to say, right, I'm going to binge watch this from start to finish. Probably I should do that at some point, but
Has your partner in crime heard of Star Trek?
Well, yeah, I think so, given that you nagged him about it last time, but he will probably have forgotten again by this point. I'll have to remind him again.
It's just really, I find, because they're not counting on people watching it now. It's all about the subscription. So, and this is the reason why these shows are keep going. So, you know.
PCAT, you're not going to be watching this then?
No, I've got 5 live series I can rewatch and 10 movies. So even if I don't count the motion picture in Star Trek 5, it's 8 movies that I enjoy. Well, Star Trek 10, the Nemesis wasn't great either, but
it's terrible.
Dave Cullen dropped a new video on that today. So
you didn't have to check it out.
I would just say, if ignoring Discovery and season 1 of Picard, if this would have been the first kind of new Star Trek we'd got, I probably would have thought, oh, okay, it's not too bad. But again,
I still want to see the original cast though of the Next Generation.
Yeah.
Like, not these terrible characters. That I mean, they're just bad characters that they made in season 1. Now he's hanging out with them, and not Geordi and not Riker and not Beverly and Data and Worf.
Data. Batman Data, you mean?
Yeah.
That android Data looks like Steven Seagal. What's that all about?
Again, as I said, if you could ignore season 1, if this would have just been episode 1, season 1, I'd have thought, okay. Considering I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
No, definitely, yeah. As a standalone, if this had been at the beginning of the entire process and there hadn't been any other new Trek, you'd say this could still go in interesting places. It doesn't do much damage on its own terms. That you could still critique the writing, you could still critique the decision making. It does still rely too much on stupid decisions to drive itself forward, but on its own, it does actually work. Just about. Of course, the premise is though that they are going to be setting this up for another time travel experiment where they get to go back and tell everyone that the political decisions we're making in the modern day are bad. So it would always lead to a terrible place. But, the message again.
Apparently, season 3 will finish shooting in about a week to 2 weeks' time. So there's another season. They've shot season 2 and 3 back to back. Purely because I think Stuart's too old.
Yeah, well, it's just, as I said, it's just a big waste of time for any Star Trek fan, personally. So
Captain's in the chat. Hello, mates. Where's Cruel's comment? Bear with me. Here we go. I think this sums it up.
Yeah.
Wasted potential is a common theme.
True. It does go further than that, though. I mean, Series 1 in particular of Picard definitely went further than that. It wasn't just about wasting potential. It did actually accomplish a lot of what it set out to do, and what it set out to do was much more consciously and deliberately deconstructive or just destructive. So it's not just that they made mistakes, it's that they did actually accomplish, I think, what they aimed for. So actually, there weren't so many mistakes made as it was just that they had bad intent to begin with.
What, the first season?
Yeah,
the first season. I genuinely think that, unlike Discovery, which is just incompetently written from start to finish, don't get me wrong, first season of Picard isn't well written, but actually most of what we hate about it was what it deliberately set out to do, as opposed to it just made cock-ups and destroyed itself accidentally. I do think that the writers intended much of this. It wanted to tear down the Federation. It wanted to tear down Picard. It wanted to minimize the other characters. Sheer fucking hubris. It was one of those unintentionally meta lines.
Then I asked the question, why would you want to support this? Any Star Trek fan, why would any Star Trek fan want to support this? You see, this is
this
is a very serious situation here, right? Fans moan and complain, yet they're not willing to stand up for what they believe. They'll keep watching this trash. And I've got a friend that's going to be watching Discovery and going to be watching, what is it?
Lord of the Rings.
Whatever that new one's called. And I'm like, why? Why are you supporting this trash? The very person that destroyed, and everybody agrees with this, destroyed Star Trek. Oh, but it's Star Trek. But no, you're being hypocritical. If you are a fan, you will not be watching this trash. You will not be supporting this trash, right? And I can't look at my friend now and go, yeah, you're a Star Trek fan. No, you're not a Star Trek fan because you're watching this crap. So, I mean, I guess that's what they wanted. They want us fans to fight against one another and belittle one another so they can carry on making them the message all the time in their shows. But I don't really. I just feel sorry for the fans that keep supporting this trash. They're the ones that actually destroying Star Trek together with Kurtzman.
It's feeding the beast.
Exactly.
So
I do wonder, just very brief, because I suspect, especially with Discovery, as we get toward I think season 5 has been scheduled, that the only people actually watching by the end of this are just people who are watching it like me for the purposes of giving it a bad review. So
Probably.
It might just be that it's being propped up by YouTubers, in which case I'm doing my little bit to not make any mistakes allowed to be made. I have a really good friend called Jack Sparrow who gives people
Jack Sparrow, excellent.
I'm not actually lending my support, even just by shitting on it.
So you've heard it there, folks. Lost Chord is taking one for the team.
But also, right,
That's the type of guy he is.
Do you see how we're being fooled? Like, for instance, they say Spider-Man No Way Home has made a lot of money, but then when you calculate it, right, the amount of money it took to make, and then when you take out the amount of money they took to advertise it, then when you take out the amount of money they pay the actors, the amount of money that the actors got for, you know, like a bit of the end of the money, whatever, and then you take, do you know what I mean? And in the end of the day, it didn't make that much. And it's the same thing with the ratings for TV shows as well. They fudge it so much, or they don't let you know how many people have watched it, because they know it's embarrassing, because they want to keep pushing out the message. And again, I say the fans, the so-called fans, they bloody support this crap, you know?
Yeah.
It's like fighting for England in World War II and supporting the Germans. It makes no sense to me at all.
Lost Chord, have you heard of World War II?
Yeah, that was that one with the chap with the moustache, wasn't it?
Oh, that's the one.
It was, mate. It was. Okay, so Lost Chord, I take it you'll be watching episode 2 next week.
Yeah, no, the plan is to do, because I've got this 4-part long-term critique thing of the entire endeavor, and a complete review of season 2 is one part of that. So I will be sticking with it, just as I'm having to stick with Discovery and just drinking heavily every time an episode goes on.
Yeah, it's the only way to deal with it, I guess.
Yes.
Oh, Discovery. Oh, you're a better man than me. Okay, so we'll move on from this. So here we go.
Bender's back.
Futurama's coming back, which we knew a couple of weeks ago. John DiMaggio was saying, I want more money. Did we not say at the time, Hulu, just pay John what he wants? You've not got a show without Bender.
Yeah.
And it looks like for once they were listening.
I like Futurama. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of Futurama, but the episodes I've seen have been really, really enjoyable and made me laugh out loud. So I think in this day and age, that's a good thing to laugh these days. So
I will say I actually watched a couple of episodes last weekend, and it still holds up, and it's still good.
Yeah.
Lost Chord, you seen Futurama?
I have seen bits and pieces every now and then. I never got into it. I quite liked The Simpsons, like the early time of The Simpsons, but South Park's more my kind of humor. Matt Groening, I love Matt Groening for all that he's done, but the humor's a little. I need more bite, I think, in humor.
Futurama is very, very excellent. Pcat, you into Futurama?
Not really. I think more like Lost Chord. I've seen a couple of episodes here and there, and when it comes to animated, I go more with South Park, because they will bash both sides when it gets to the politics of it, and I enjoy it. You know, I prefer to watch both sides get hammered.
I will say, back in the day when it was South Park and Futurama on at the same time, we watched. The girlfriend and I at the time watched both and thoroughly enjoyed both.
Have you seen the fan film of this where they made the real version?
Yes.
Of it? It's really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And they got the characters really, like especially Leela. Yeah.
Brian, have you seen Futurama? You a fan?
I remember watching the very first episode back at the very, very start. I couldn't get into it then, and I've since tried a couple of times, and just I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of animation in general, but I just can't get into it.
Right, that surprised me. I will just say to everybody, it's coming back. They've paid John what he wants. You know, sometimes in life you just have to pay. So they've obviously paid. It will be interesting to see how it comes back. What's the kind of writing? So, as I said, everybody check out Futurama. It's genuinely really good. I think even when it came back after a while, after a high hiatus, it was pretty good as well. So, Put it on the homework list, boys and girls, Futurama. Okay, so before we get into the film, we'll just do a few chats. That's Nigel Movie Guy is in, everybody, with his gems of Star Wars, his pearls of Star Wars knowledge. The all-terrain armoured transport, or AT-AT Walker, is a four-legged transport and combat vehicle used by the Imperial Ground Forces. I did not know. Picard, did you know that?
It's always good to learn something new every day.
It is. Nigel, whenever you want to come on, mate, it's an open invite. You let us know. Then Nigel says, if they had the AT-ATs on the taking of Pelham 123, the terrorists wouldn't have stood a chance.
No.
That's
How's it going to get in the subway?
I was about to say.
When they fire it, they're going to kill everyone straight in one go. So I would say it's possibly one of the worst vehicles in Star Wars to attack.
Unless if he was waiting in the street.
Aye.
You know what? One of the perfect sized vehicle in Star Wars for going through one of those tunnels, though, was one of the speeder bikes from the Book of Boba Fett. That would have really made this film much better.
Nice colours.
Definitely.
Mm.
Apparently, it's all Rodriguez. It's his fault, isn't it? Apparently. Did you see the Doomcock video?
I used to respect him.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
According to the mighty Doomcock, Rodriguez had pretty much full control over the Book of Boba, and because the reception wasn't particularly good, Disney started panicking. Hence why we've got, I think, 2 or 3 genuine episodes of The Mandalorian thrown in because they panicked. So there you go. And it's Rodriguez's fault for the Vespers. He thought he was good. It's a bit of a backfire, isn't it? So, okay, so the taking of Pelham. 1, 2, 3. Or was it 3, 2, 1? Okay, so
Ted Rogers, that is.
Dusty Bin you're thinking about, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Ted Rogers in the doorway there?
Yeah.
Okay, then, guys. So we'll do a little bit of blurb, and then I'm really conscious of smacking my lips now because I get told that I do it too often. So I'm consciously trying not to do it. Okay, so the taking of Pelham 123, 1974, USA, certificate AA. That's old school, isn't it?
Old school, yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking about the batteries either. Runtime 1 hour 44 minutes. Directed by Joseph Sargent. Writers John Goody. He did the novel. Peter Sohn. Screenplay. Starring Walter Matthau as Lieutenant or Lieutenant Garber. Robert Shaw, Blue, Martin Balsam, Green, Hector Elizondo, Gray. He's a great actor, he is. I didn't recognise him at the beginning. Earl Hindman as Brown.
Mm-hmm. As you.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah. There were other people in the cast, obviously, but I just put, because obviously we recognised him. Jerry Stiller, Ben's old man. Lieutenant Patron.
Yeah, he's a good character.
Yeah. Gabriel Kadska was the producer. Stephen F. Kesden, associate producer. Edgar J. Sverick, producer. David Shire, music.
Great music.
Would somebody like some we'll do some trivia with David Shire in a minute. Original budget was $5 million.
Yeah, small compared to today, what they shoot films for today, isn't it?
But it didn't say how much it made worldwide. I think a lot of the older films, Internet Movie Database, ain't too good on that.
No, people put information in there, so you can't rely on IMDb, because people just you can add your name to Star Wars if you want. You know what I mean? Second Stormtrooper on the left, you can add. Do you know?
Yeah, so, I think with one of your pages, I actually said the film's pretty good.
Yeah, big mistake.
Yeah. I'm here all week. Before we go on, I'll just quickly. There is a poll, boys and girls, in the chat as to what we're going to be doing next week. I think the options are somebody's buzzing. I think the options are Lord of the Rings. Somebody's buzzing.
It's Picard's ignited a lightsaber
there. Galaxy Quest. And what's the other one? Godfather 2. I will try and remember to close the poll before the end of the show, so we have a winner. And
am I the only person currently on who'd be really excited to do the Lord of the Rings? Do you all hate it?
Yes.
Sorry, Ian, when you go.
I was just saying, I don't hate Lord of the Rings. I just can't remember it because the films were so long, and I've only seen it once. And quite frankly, I can't remember. I can just remember bits of it, so I wouldn't be very good.
Mr. Angel is a man of discerning taste.
Galaxy Quest is a good film.
As
is The Godfather 2. They're all good films.
Lost Chord, I have done a 180. Complete 180 on the Lord of the Rings after having rewatched it and done the slides for it this weekend. I was never a big fan. It used to bore me, but it was 21 years ago was the last time I watched it.
21.
Jesus.
And I don't know if it's just 21 years of watching absolute horse muck that's come out of Hollywood since, but I've done a complete 180.
Good. Welcome to the club.
I think what we will do, guys, is whatever's number one, we'll do number one next week, and then number two the following week, which is fair enough, isn't it? So, okay. Again, Mr. Angel, best Star Trek parody ever. Great film.
It's a good film, and plus it did it before the Orville, didn't it?
Yeah.
Let's face it. So.
Okay, so let's get into the slides then. So let me get the peeps out of the way.
Post is great.
It is. It is.
So 70-ish.
So who would like to start with your thoughts of the film? Who would like to go first? I think because it's set in New York.
Picard.
Brian, do you want to go first?
I think I'll give way to Picard.
Yeah.
Subverted. We do that on this channel.
Ramhead Ryan.
Brownhead, yes.
Brownhead Ryan.
Picard, go for it.
It's one of those movies I saw when I was young, and it was one of those I would get off of work. I was working at a supermarket, and they had a video store across the street. So a couple of nights a week, I'd run across and look for older movies, and heard nothing but high marks from this, from older relatives, set in New York, 1970s, the grittiness, and just hearing the opening theme in the credits, I was sucked in. It was one of those things that after I watched it for the first time, it was on VHS. I rewound it just to rewatch the opening credits, just to hear the theme again.
Great.
But this is why I love 70s movies the best. For me personally, I think there's a grittiness, there's a realism about the 70s that it was a game changer for movie making. Again, from a fan perspective, I can't speak to obviously, as Ian would be able to speak to. But I just love the grittiness of 70s movies. You get movies like The Taking of Pelham, you get French Connection, Dirty Harry, you get The Godfather, you get a movie like Rocky, and then you get a movie like Star Wars. There's so many great movies of the 70s, and this is in the top 3, maybe of the top 4 of the 70s for me personally.
Mm.
I just love the dirty looking New York from back then, which unfortunately is returning that way. But you get the grime. You feel you can get you feel the dirt under your fingernails when you watch a movie like this for how realistic it was using New York in its true setting and not filming it in Vancouver like a lot of modern movies do.
So what you're saying is you are actually from New York, aren't you?
Yeah. Yep.
So
get to work there every day.
So you've got the connection with it then.
Yeah. It's funny because when I first started working in the city, it's a much cleaner place, and I would hear from either coworkers that have been around a while or older relatives saying, "Well, you don't know what New York is, but if you want to see what it looked like, this is one of the examples." They would say, with the exception of they sanitized the subway cars, so you didn't see the graffiti that was on them back then. But other than that, you get a feel for what New York was like back then.
Brian, thoughts?
Well, it's a film so good they remade it twice, once in 1998 and then the other one with Travolta in 2009. Sadly, I saw the Travolta one first, which is a bit of a shame, but this one is such a great movie. I think the pacing is pretty much perfect, and I think it's vital for a film like this to keep the tension, to be paced well so it keeps the tension at optimum levels. There's some good use of humour in it, but it doesn't, crucially, it doesn't undercut the drama at all. The cinematography sticks out for me, specifically the use of framing techniques it's got all the way through it. It's masterfully done.
No Dutch angles.
Yeah, and I think Walter Matthau was obviously well known for his comedic performances, but he really puts in a star turn here in a more serious role. Great performances all round on that front, and it really is a top film.
Before I forget, there was a self-effacing kind of comedic charm to it, which I quite liked. But okay, Lost Chord.
Yeah, so I mean, I should say the film was literally finished on my TV 5 minutes ago. So this is I thought I'd seen it before, and then I realized that I was confusing it with the what's the one in the prison?
Shawshank?
No. It's the that's going to annoy me now. It'll come back. I thought basically I'd confused it with a separate but similar film. I enjoyed it for its technical construction. I think that's, well, Ian will say more about this more eloquently than I can, but there are basic little things that it does very, very well, which just make the whole... nothing in the film makes no sense. Nothing relies on stupidity to drive the plot forward. Characters don't have to be idiots in order to make decisions. Everything from minor details, like toward the beginning, warning the people walking off the subway car to beware of the third rail, comes back at the end. It's a really small thing, but it means that when it does, there is a payoff to that, and it's carefully constructed, and therefore it's done well. It's a very well-made film. As far as the story itself goes, I think, maybe it for me slightly suffers from the fact that it's a genre which has been done frequently. It's a very bloated genre. It doesn't stand out very much from other films of its type. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't necessarily say it held me very much. It was one of those things that you sit there and it's great background entertainment, but it's not necessarily the kind of thing you focus on with 100% attention. But having seen how well it was made and constructed, it just makes you wonder why they can't, because it is so simple, why they can't accomplish anything like that today. So for that reason and that reason alone, I enjoyed it. There were other reasons to enjoy it too. The performances were good. It lacked something in character, I think. It didn't seem to care too much about the people involved, but very well made film, enjoyable film. I did like it.
Mephisto Zarsis in the chat. Check out Failsafe, the original film.
Definitely worth a watch.
Ian, thoughts? I know you like this one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. It's in my top 10. And a lot of people know this, and a lot of people don't know this, that Tarantino was influenced by this film with the colors.
Yeah.
So he used that in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
But going back to what PCAT said about 70s movies, I'm a huge lover of 70s movies, as you guys know. And the techniques they used to use in the day to actually make films work faster, especially when it's driven by dialogue, which this film was driven by dialogue mostly. They do a lot of shortcuts, which they don't do today. Today, they try to explain a lot via the dialogue.
Yeah.
But I give an example, okay? So to introduce the four main bad guys, they do this thing where you see, is it Bolson? The guy who sneezes a lot, him.
Yes.
The first time you see him, you know what kind of a character he is. He's very agreeable. He sneezes, and then he touches his false moustache to make sure it's still stuck. So that tells the audience that the moustache is false.
Yeah.
Then the second person you see is Hector, and he walks in, and the first thing he does is he sticks his tongue out to that girl, the girl that's on the seat. That tells you exactly what kind of a character he is, right? And then the third person that walks in, who just bumps into the guy as he's coming out of the train. He's a no-nonsense person. And as I said, those are shortcuts. In those days, in the script, they used to use shortcuts to quickly explain what kind of characters they are. And then the last person, which is the what's his name? Guy that was in Jaws. It's gone out. It's gone away.
Robert Shaw.
Now.
Blue.
Robert Shaw. The first
Blue.
shot you see of him, he's trying to stay warm because the platform is cold, and you see his feet, and the camera turns around and it pans straight up to him, and you know that man is patient. So that's what I'm saying. In today's, when they make films today, because they don't teach people about screenwriting properly or directing properly, you get this really crappy way of explaining characters in movies and TV shows today. But the 70s films, from Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 to Ipcris Files, straight through to the films that PCAP mentioned, they all operate as an art. Do you know what I mean? It's an art form, and it actually tries to reach you as an entertainment art form as well, which is what I love. Jaws, Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, all those films, they're terrific. And as I said, one of the reasons why I like this film is because, one, I've been to New York a load of times, and these people, they are from New York. All the people in this film, the way they speak and everything, you're like, they're from New York, I love the attitude they all have as well about being in New York, especially the mayor and the mayor's assistant. And I think the mayor's assistant's absolutely hilarious, But there was one mistake in the film that cannot be denied, which they corrected in the Denzel Washington version. Do you guys know what it was? Do you guys know what it was?
Negative.
Okay, so in the scene, they had to get the money to them to a certain time. And they put the money in a car and they drove. And the car turns over, obviously, and stuff like that. And in the in the Denzel Washington version, they said, "Why don't we just take the helicopter?" And so they took the helicopter. So they obviously, that was a nice nod to the original version. But I can go on forever about this film. I think this film is genius filmmaking, personally. But I will stop there.
So, other than that, you didn't like the film at all?
No, hated it.
I think it likes everybody. My initial thoughts were, as I said to Lost Chord before we came on, I think I thought I hadn't seen it, but watching it before we came on today, I probably would have seen it on the BBC maybe in the 70s when it would have been on, say, a Saturday night or something. But I would have been very, very young. I'm sure I have seen it, but I would have been very, very young.
It was Assault on Precinct 13 I'd confused it with, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That came out a couple of years afterwards, and I suspect capitalizing on it.
You know what? I can tell you why you got confused, because it has the same type font. Assault on Precinct has the same font as Taking a Pelham, yeah. I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, so I enjoyed it. and paced beautifully. I liked the self-effacing kind of humor that kind of popped in every now and again. And it was worth it just for the opening theme. Fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
Fantastic. So, okay. Right. So, we've only got about 100 slides, so we should finish before Monday. Okay.
Half of last week. That's good.
God, there was a lot of slides. You boys did fantastic last week, piling through those.
A long film, Godfather, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Long
It's
movie.
about 3 hours.
And you know what? The when we do Godfather 2, I'll just say to everybody in the chat, make sure you vote. That's 3.5 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be like a 17-hour EFAP stream. Okay, so we will just pile through these then, boys and girls. And where we feel like we need to stop, we will stop. So, United Artists. There you go. That does look like Assault on Precinct 13, doesn't it?
A bit. I don't know if I got that right. The font looks very similar. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say, Brian, could you post that? Brian is going to post, going back with what Ian just said about modern day writers. I stumbled across a channel today on YouTube where a genuine head of TV channel or executive is got a YouTube career now, and he was talking about these LA straight out of fucking drama school writers who have got no idea of what life is, so everything is just kind of written in their kind of little fart bubble instead of actually on real life experience. So Brian, if you could post that, I think it was about
is it guy grey hair?
Yeah,
I've seen it.
I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes long, but just watch it, guys. It's spot on.
Yeah, of course it is.
Can't say fairer than that. I think in a nutshell, it just basically says these young writers have no experience of life. So
but it's not that they don't have an experience of life. It's that the structure, the script structure, they completely ignore, or they've never been taught it. And plus, on top of that, they've been told to add all this woke rubbish in there and making them believe that. And that's where it all goes wrong, that they're focusing on the wrong thing. Rather than telling a story and making sure the characters come across to the audience and entertaining, they're doing something completely different. And that's why it will fail. Every time if you don't focus on the story and the characters. But I'm old school me, so
it's completely right. Like you wouldn't necessarily have had to have been in New York in the 1970s to understand the basics of what New York was like in the 1970s, and to put those into a screenplay so the city felt at least believable to people who did live there. Obviously, it helps if you have an intimate knowledge of it yourself. But for instance, taking Pelham 1, 2, 3, you wouldn't necessarily have had to be there in order to write a film like this. The problem is today you wouldn't get people even attempting to understand what New York was like in the 1970s. They're not concerned with the feel of the thing. They're not concerned with the reality, the grittiness, the actual what it smells like, what it looks like, that particular kind of grey that New York embodied in the 1970s. They don't care about that. They would all that a film like this would be used for today would be to make some kind of point about racist police officers or incompetent mayors or anything like that, and just completely missing everything that gives character to one of the most characterful cities in the world.
But one thing I liked about this movie is that if you see all the characters that was involved in the actual train itself, they were all characters from different races. Like you had the black guy that got smacked in the mouth with the gun. You had the Jewish guy. You had the Italian woman with the 2 kids. You know what I mean? They were all different it was diversity on that
Yeah.
shoot, wasn't it?
but natural.
But natural, they didn't really.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a lot
Not
of. I mean,
forced.
obviously, what's his name? Hector was a racist because he picked on that black guy,
It
and
is.
plus, what's his name? Robert Shaw was very amused by him when he first meets the black guy with the hat, wasn't he? Have you never seen it? What is it? Have you? I can't remember the line. Have you never seen?
Yeah,
was it
whatever
a
it's before?
sunset?
Sunset before,
Have you ever
yeah.
seen the sunset before? Yeah.
Yeah, and he just smiles at him. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It just goes to show the shorthand of the actual writing itself, that you can tell that guy's very patient. He looks at the clock, he looks at his watch. He's very patient, and you know that immediately when you see him, obviously because he's Robert Shaw, you know he's the leader. Do you know what I mean? So,
in the chat, Mephisto Zarsis says, "Those were great days." This is at UPCAT. Popping into my local VHS shop and seeing the artwork on the video cassettes.
Yeah.
Happy days, mate.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Look at the grain of that film there. Look at that. I love grain on film. I love real film. There's something about it.
Okay, so this, Brian has done extensive notes. He's produced this show very well today. This is Mr. Green, is it not?
Yes.
Who arrives on the 59th.
Yeah, Balsam. Yep.
Yeah, he's carrying a long parcel.
It's really funny, right? Because I never clicked that he was the guy that got killed in Psycho. Went down the stairs.
Arbogast, yeah.
Yeah. Until later on. Yeah. Great
He's also
actor.
the jury foreman in 12 Angry Men.
He is, yeah. He's a great actor. They're all from that era of great actors. They really are.
Which one? Who played Mr. Green?
Mr. Green was
Martin Balsam.
Yeah.
He was one of the original Rudy Wells in the $6 Million Man. Was he not?
Of course, yes, he was.
Oh, in the TV movie pilots.
The movie, yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mic drop, everybody.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Ian.
Brilliant.
That means a lot. I'm feeling fluffy. Thank you.
Fluffy.
Okay,
fantastic.
Lens flares.
Yeah, and when I look at these pictures, it always reminds me of, obviously it is New York, but always reminds me when I was there, and it still looks the same after all these years.
Yep.
They still haven't added a coat of paint to those pillars.
Well, when we all go visit PCAT, he'll give us the tour, will you not? So, okay, so
show you all the dirty parts of New York.
and the subway.
Right? The most unbelievable thing about it, apart from the fact that the subway was so clean, was that by the standards of modern day New York, it would be highly unlikely that these four men who were committing the terrorist act would be the most likely people to be heavily armed on the New York subway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Angel in the chats loved how Quentin Tarantino used the Mr. in brackets colour in his movie.
He got it from this movie.
No, he got it from me. I'm Mr. Brown. He got it from me.
I got it from you, did he?
Yeah, he didn't get it from this film. He got it from me. Okay, so we like the organic lens flares, yes?
Yeah, they didn't do it deliberately.
It's good though, doesn't it?
Just happened. Yeah.
I think this may be the J.J. Abrams special edition.
But there's a history behind that. The first film to actually embrace lens flares was Cool Hand Luke, would you believe, with Paul Newman, and the director of photography got praised for using it, because before then it was shunned upon. If you got a lens flare in the lens, it means that your film was cheap and you didn't know what you were doing. But the director of photography on Cool Hand Luke decided to embrace it, and from that point on, a lot of director photographies decided to embrace natural light. So there you go. Bit of trivia for you.
It's kind of like a pseudo kind of 3D effect on 2D film. Okay,
this shot here, sorry.
No,
go ahead.
Go on.
This shot here is almost absolutely perfect when it comes to the framing techniques I was talking about earlier on. When I was doing the slides for this, I was trying to catch it. You don't actually get to see him completely before the train takes it out, but obviously that's going to be a really, really difficult shot to get back in the 70s. Today
But
you
you
just
see-
CGI, but
Yeah.
it's so well done regardless.
Yeah, so you see this shot. It's called can't remember what they call it. Directional of something. You see the lines in the frame. Basically, the lines is telling you who's going from right to left, and it's a subconscious thing that the audience picks up, but they don't actually notice it. So sometimes directors or DOPs use natural lines in a shot, like a bridge or something leading to something. So immediately you'll tell the audience where the actor is going. So this is no exception. This is what they're using. So it's cool.
So welcome to film school, hosted by...
Well, I never went, but this is what I've learned for other filmmakers.
All this is
Old
from a
school.
genuine director, boys and girls. Some film tips.
Yes.
I
So,
wouldn't say I'm genuine, but hey.
genuine, more like. Mephisto Zarsis. I'll call you Mephisto from now on, if I may. The egg scene.
Yes.
Just
brilliant
how many
scene.
eggs?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. We're not talking Cadbury's cream eggs either, are we?
Great film.
And then Mr. Angel. Eggs. We
There's
need the
bacon around.
With the eggs, don't we?
There's
I don't
bacon around.
I don't
Eggs
think
and
Matt's
bacon's
around.
always good.
No,
Yeah.
Matt's
There you go.
bacon and egg. Okay, Brian, I'm assuming you've got your very well-crafted notes on screen as well.
Yes.
Good lad. This is why Brian's VP of the channel, boys and girls. So this is this guy's getting trained, is he not, on the left?
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting trained. Very, very. I don't know about you, PCAT, but these two, you can tell. I don't know if they're putting it on as actors, but New York accents, as far as I'm concerned, these two, they look like they belong. You know.
Yep. I love the which gets to the New York attitude. I love the part. It's right around this, this thing where, as the train is riding, he makes a mistake and announces the wrong stop that they're coming up, and then the guy that's train goes, "Never apologize."
It's great. It's as I said, right. When you go through this film, everybody just watches it and they watch the one level of it. But when you do a deep dive into movies like this, you realize how great the film is just by the small things you just don't notice. So. But
Mephisto in the chat. Andy Sedaris taught me film school. Now I do not know who he is. Sorry, Mephisto. Does Ian? Do you know who this guy is?
I don't. Sorry, I don't.
Picat?
No, I don't.
Okay, so is that well known? We don't know him.
Yeah.
I love the sideburns and. You're fantastic.
I'll just say, Mephisto, please let us know who he is. Then MC in the chat, I definitely haven't seen the original taking of Pelham. Don't recognise the pics. Should watch it, mate. It's pretty good.
It's good. Yeah, it's really good.
And then, MC needs to remedy this. And then,
there comes the bacon.
Apologies, the bacon was not crispy enough.
Brilliant. Cheers, mate.
Mephisto, we will find out afterwards who he is.
Okay. I'm having a quick look. What has he done? He is a director. He has done films, none of which I've heard of. Day of the Warrior?
No.
Hard Ticket to Hawaii?
No.
Guns, Lethal Lady, Do or Die, The Dallas Connection, 7, the 79 version.
Sound
good. Something called the Bear Wench Project.
Have a look at what he did in 1970.
Brilliant.
Have a look for a laugh.
Dallas, is it?
Where are we looking at here?
He's the football choreographer in MASH.
Excellent.
Oh.
Right, okay. So
Something called Some Nudity Required.
Uh-oh. Look at this scene.
So this is Mr. Green, isn't it? He's in the corner and he's sniffling, and right on cue, does he ever let us down? Evening, Matt.
Yeah.
So again, that's going back to what you said, Ian, about him sneezing and then checking his.
Yeah, it's all.
Which I didn't notice. I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's all telling you what's going to happen. It's all foreshadowing what's going to happen. And as I said, right, it's pretty good. It's pretty good written script. It's a well written script, and as I said, it's all shortcuts and stuff. Yeah, it's all shortcuts. I mean, especially the Jewish guy there, and you got the guy, the war veteran over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all characters you can just immediately click with. Do you know what I mean? So
You even got the drunk lady who's passed out the entire
yeah.
You see them on almost every train.
Yeah.
Just how I like them. Okay, so
Jesus.
no, Jesus wasn't there, Brian. Oh,
Shocking behaviour.
was. Okay. So this is the train. I think I've read some trivia somewhere on the Internet Movie Database. They don't do the. There isn't a number 6 train that goes at that time. They've kind of deliberately avoided it, have they not?
Yep.
I suppose it's a bad omen. Okay, so the train's pulling up. 51st.
And there he is.
Yep.
Good old Hector.
Ex-mafia man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Pretty Woman, wasn't he? Playing a concierge. Yeah. Really good actor.
Is this Mr. Grey?
Yes.
Right. I didn't recognise him at all, so it just shows the mustache was working.
But he's really young there, though.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good actor.
He is. He's a very good actor.
What else has he been in?
It's been lots of stuff. The Pretty Woman's the only film that I can think of at this moment in time. But he's been around. He's a jobbing actor. He's still alive.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I've seen him in some big 80s films.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes.
Of course. Which one? The last
Third
one, wasn't it?
thing.
The 5th one, or no, the 4th one. Was it the 4th one?
Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Yeah.
Third one.
3 was the 3rd one.
That was the theme park, wasn't it?
He replaced was it not Rosewood? The other one.
Oh, Taggart.
Taggart, replaced Taggart.
Yeah.
How could you replace Taggart?
It wasn't a very good movie.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So, Taggart was great in Midnight Run, was he not, Picard?
Oh man,
it was terrific.
Yep.
I think he's gone now, is he? Did he die?
Yeah, he did die. Within the last 2 years, I think.
We'll do Midnight Run at some point, Picard.
I was going to say Taggart died a long time ago, but that's probably quite an obscure reference.
Yeah.
That's a totally
been a
different
murder.
beast. There's been a murder. Cruel, yeah. BHC.
Well done, Cruel.
Yeah. He's always there, he's Cruel.
So this guy bumps into him and he doesn't even apologize. As I said, it immediately tells you what kind of a character he is. So it's all these shortcuts.
Yeah, he goes, what's your problem, man? You in a hurry? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So when you're properly introduced to these characters, you know exactly who they are, which is fantastic. It's showing you and it's not telling you via dialogue who these people are. Which is really
I
cool.
already knew I hated this guy because I was having lived in London for however long.
Like,
these people who get on while you're trying to get off are scum, and they should all be shot. So I already hated this man as soon as he appeared on screen.
Mephisto generously is giving us some context. I was 4 when this movie was released. He is now.
I think I was minus 25.
Were you still swimming in your daddy's testicles?
I'm trying to think if my mum was alive.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
She might not have been.
This was made before Jaws as well, wasn't it?
Yep.
So,
yeah, year before, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Spielberg was one of the directors they considered at one point for this.
Really? I'm assuming this would have been made in 73, then released 74, or early 74. It would have been made. Okay. Because it was released in the UK 75 in February.
That's when you had to wait.
I have a feeling, based on sort of back of the fag packet calculations, that my mum was 2 when this film came out.
Wow.
I think that's right.
So I'm old enough to be your dad.
I am
Stream
your father.
killer. I am Lost Chord. I am your
I'm
father.
not calling you daddy if that's where this sinister
Oh,
game is going.
jeez.
Because
Not
they
yet.
shot this. They shot this in a real station, and I wonder how they did that. Did they shoot it all in the night when there were less people? And
Possibly,
it just
yeah.
makes you wonder, doesn't it, how they did it?
MC in the charts, isn't there a Cylon in BHC3? I do believe there is.
Yeah.
Wally
Okay.
World, I think it was,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
God.
No,
So-
that was the other film.
This is, what's his code name? Mr.
I can't
Blue.
remember. Blue, yes,
Blue.
of course. Mr. Blue.
So they're all in their kind of respective places at the moment.
Well, all at
It's a
different
kind of-
stations,
Yeah.
different stops, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, okay. And then he
And
goes up
he's
to the
very
stop train.
calculated. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very calculated.
Bonus points if you can tell us who he's pointing the gun at and don't see the train driver.
Is he a famous actor? I don't recognize him at all.
This is Matthew Broderick's father, believe it or not.
Wow.
Wow.
Really?
You've got both Ben Stiller's father and Matthew Broderick's father.
Wow. that's
James
great.
Broderick.
Wow.
Impressive.
Most impressive.
He's good, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he gets Mr. Green to take over because he used to
Rudy
drive the
Wells,
tubes,
yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah, because he
Yep.
used to work. Apparently, they were kind of searching for a disgruntled or sacked
Yeah.
train driver.
Yeah.
Which
Two
they didn't
nicely
know.
framed pictures in the one shot there.
Yes. It's seriously genius piece of filmmaking. Actually, no, they used to shoot films like this all the time, considering the frame and all that. But as I said, now they don't do any of that stuff. So
We've got a
Shame.
bombshell in the chat, boys and girls.
Yes,
Mephisto.
absolutely, 100%. Both the 50s and the 70s version. I'm on board for both of those. Brilliant films.
Got bad news for you, boys and girls.
what's that?
Or is it good news? We've already done the thing.
Ah, shit. Which one?
The masterpiece that is the
80.
Carpenter version.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a real light sleeper, Giles. That one.
Mephisto is somewhere in my channel content.
When did we do that? When was the thing?
Ooh, a
Well,
long time ago.
I've got it. I'll put the link in the chat.
All right, good lad.
The 56 version, I think it's 56, is also very good. Have you done Invasion of the Body Snatchers yet?
which one?
Which one?
Well, if you've done the 80s thing, then the 79 Body Snatchers is sort of thematically
That was
very
fantastic.
Great
Yeah.
film, that.
Yeah.
Those two, the 79 Body Snatchers and the
Leonard
82 The
Nimoy.
Thing, are like my favorite horror films, or some of them anyway.
We haven't done The Exorcist. I'd love to do The
It's
Exorcist.
also a good film.
Another great 70s example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I think I've only seen The Exorcist once. That was enough.
Yeah.
I
Still,
was quite
that's
young though.
genius piece of filmmaking. The
great.
Exorcist.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where the train will start moving in a moment.
Oh, I love this scene. So this, so this bit, right, tells you exactly what kind of character Walter Matthau is. He literally sleeping on the job. He's
He's a policeman as well.
Yes, this is what I love
Yep.
about the film, right? It tells you that this guy has been there years, right? And he's come to the point where he's not bothered about his job anymore. He's not bothered about appearances or anything. That this one scene here tells you all of that. You know, even if you didn't get it consciously, you get it subconsciously, purely by the fact he's sleeping and that woman knows him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think it's genius personally.
Do you think it also tells you that there's absolutely nothing going on at the same
Yeah,
time?
exactly.
Yeah.
That too, right? So it's multifaceted. This just one scene.
It's
tells
also
you-
kind of there's a more meta comment going on, and you see it in the character of the mayor as well. And for virtually any person in a position of power and authority in this film, and it was one of a number of films that came around at the same time, which all played on this very similar and, from what I gather at least, all-encompassing sense amongst New Yorkers themselves, that there was a kind of a spiritual vacuum in that city. A million people left that city over the course of the 1970s. Everything was run down. Everything was going to shit. Everyone in power was completely incompetent. None of them really wanted to be there. And whenever they had to do anything major, handle any major crisis, they ended up making that crisis worse. And so by portraying these characters, like the policeman just completely asleep and incompetent, the mayor just self-serving, only interested in his own wallet, has no idea how to run a city. It's a really effective way of capturing the mood of the place. It does it really, really well. There's a number of different. It's not just those two. There are other characters, other parts of the film which also capture this mood, but these two characters do it quite well.
It's all to do with the casting and the script writing, right? So if you'd cast somebody else to play this role and didn't have a comedic sense to him, this character wouldn't have worked. And so this is the one thing I love about 70s films. When you watch Jaws, you can't imagine it being without Roy Schneider. Roy Schneider was perfectly cast as that character. And they were really good at doing that in the 70s, casting the right actor for the right role. Didn't matter if he was black, white, grey or green. If they cast the right person. So much I can say about today.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right then, okay. So, yeah, I didn't realise he was a policeman.
Yeah, it's just he's just so funny in this film, and then when it comes time for him to be serious, he's deadly serious, and just goes to show how great of an actor Walter Matthau was, you know. So
yeah, he was. Was a great actor.
I love the yellow tie.
I've got one of those. Yellow ties are fantastic. So he's showing these Japanese.
They're from the Tokyo subway. So
yeah,
they are stated as well. The idea
none
that
of them
the
can
Japanese
speak
are taking advice from anyone else on how to do a subway places the film very firmly in the 1970s when the Tokyo subway was being built at the time. But it actually fulfills a really, really useful function in world building. And likewise, the earlier scene with the train guard, or sorry, the train conductor, when he's being talked through the job, it serves a really, really integral function to the film. This is actually what sets up the rules of the thing. This is what sets up so the audience understands setting rules, stakes, mechanics, and that makes everything else make sense. So it seems like a throwaway excuse to have a bit of a joke against Japanese cameramen, which is inevitably going to happen in a film of this era. But actually, by this scene, we all understand what happens now. Everything now makes sense from his brief explanations, the aborted explanations of the workings of the subway. This allows us to understand the plot of the conspiracists. It allows us to work things out for ourselves. So it's a really useful scene to have, as well as being the Japanese.
I love the scene where he says to them, he says to them, "Welcome, gentlemen," and then he goes on his tour. The so-and-so, and he walks off, and they're just standing there. He needs to turn around and just says, "Please, gentlemen, follow me." I thought it was so funny.
Time Prophet in the chat. Ever thought about doing a stream where you compare the original to a remake?
Oh God,
that would be fun.
Remake is terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a shame because they had so many good. Travolta aside, there's a lot of good actors in the remake. It's just terrible movie.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that they understood what he was saying.
Yeah. He's calling them monkeys, and he's just disparaging
because he doesn't think he can speak English.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
But then it turns out that they can, obviously.
Yeah, and very good English as well.
They can. I had a friend who works, I don't know if he still does, but he used to work very high up in a major Western car manufacturer. And apparently this was quite common practice in the 1970s and 80s with Japanese businessmen in particular, because he learned Japanese. So he could better understand what they were talking about, but he didn't tell his Japanese negotiating partners that he'd learned Japanese. So they would go in their own circles and talk in Japanese and say quite disparaging things under the assumption that those ignorant Westerners didn't speak the language. Only then for him to reveal. So it's sort of a reverse of the situation in this film. But it wasn't an unrealistic depiction, I don't think.
Time Prophet in the chat. Walter Matthau is still a great actor. You don't diminish just because you're dead. I was trying to be grammatically correct, but you're right. He is a great actor.
I think he might be referring to me because I said that as well. But
he is a great actor.
He is.
Okay, so
he's solely missed.
Yeah. So they're doing the tour, and Mephisto, you're welcome, mate.
And again, perfect casting for this character. That angry man all the way through this film. He's angry all the time, and you don't even have to understand why he's angry. You just accept this character as that person.
He's under pressure,
and it plays incredibly well in the sequence as it goes on. So that's what I'm saying. It's all to do with what's written, casting, and how the director actually approaches the situation, and all three was done incredibly well in this movie, as far as I'm concerned, of course.
Mephisto in the chats. Have you seen any 70s gallios?
There's if you put an extra G in there, it becomes gigolos.
Oh. Seen gigolos. I don't know what gallios are.
Mr. Angry.
Yeah,
moving on.
Because he's under pressure. Moving on. Shrimp Killer.
Oh, all the characters are well casted.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
It looks like the Doctor out of Star Trek Voyager on the.
He does very much.
You're right.
But this guy here, he is absolutely hilarious, and he was talking about the why did they get these broads to walk for us because she dropped her ring down the toilet.
Yeah. his accent, his voice, is just perfect.
It is. It's so good. Now do you realize how much I like this film? I think this film's freaking amazing. So really, really good movie.
Time Prophet, yes. The mighty Robert Picardo.
But that's not him.
No.
Lost Chord, you were going to say something now?
No, I was thinking the dialogue is perfectly realistic. It doesn't try and denude or take away the color from the way people actually did speak in that time, in that period. He calls women broads. Well, the mayor of New York at the time I think this film was made, which was John Lindsay, was out campaigning once, and he was campaigning in a largely Jewish area where most of the middle class people hated him for his policies, and these Jewish women were attacking him and haranguing him. And then subsequently he walked down to a different area where people were much more fond of him, and they were praising him, and he said, "I much prefer you to those fat Jewish broads up the road."
Wow.
And this is the mayor of New York. So,
wow.
Realistic dialogue. I'm all for it.
The stunt man of the channel is in. Cam. Hello, mate.
Hey, pal.
Cam.
Yeah. Mr. Angel, the classic bureaucrats. Sorry, my thing scrolled up. Versus working guy conflict. Loved it. And then MC Gallios are Italian horror movies.
Yeah, so not gigolos then.
Yeah,
not gigolos.
Okay, so I think this is where they're uncoupling the carriages.
Yeah,
because they're just basically nicking one carriage, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the station board where it will say that it's stationary, and they're separating.
Mm-hmm.
And the what's his name? The guy decides to go down there himself, doesn't he?
To find out the one who was on the left.
Cal Dalowitz, is it?
Kaz Dalowitz,
Fat Dalowitz, they call him. Fat cats.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's authentic. That's how people spoke back then, and it wasn't necessarily being derogatory. Yeah. It's just the way people spoke back then.
Yes, very very problematic now.
And there was a genuine ill feeling toward. I think someone mentioned earlier that this managers versus the working man conflict, but that was really prevalent. That there was, again, I think at around the time this film was made, there was one of the major trades unions in New York called out its members, predominantly working class, to go and beat the shit out of students and bankers who were protesting against the Vietnam War. So there was these people lived side by side, and in some cases worked for each other, but at every available opportunity, they would be publicly shitting on each other, and if not, punching each other. So again, it adds a really realistic character to the film. It's just depicting New Yorkers as, from what I understand anyway, they genuinely were to each other at the time.
In the chat, Time Profits, everything is problematic to the woke generation. You're right, mate. Even this message is problematic. Moving on.
I like the diverse cast you see here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not forced, is it?
That's right.
It's real.
Nobody has actually gone round. This is the difference. Nobody has actually gone round with a clipboard ticking boxes with this scene, have they? It's just organic. Moving on. Okay, so this is where the I think this is where the passengers are now aware of what's going on. Isn't it?
Robert Shaw explains to them. So if they all rush him at a certain time, this gun would kill all of them or majority of them, something like that. Can't remember the dialogue.
Submachine gun, yeah.
Yeah. It's going on about it.
Yeah, it fires so many bullets per minute. If you rushed me, you'd all go down.
Make it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so is this where has some of the other passengers been released yet?
Well, they release the cart, don't they? And they tell the others to go walk back, don't they?
That's it. And these are the 17 who were the 17 unlucky ones, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
You see the woman on the right. She's like, "Excuse me, I've got an appointment. Can I go with them?"
No, sit down.
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh shit." Yeah.
Mephisto, using weapons designed for close quarters. Yeah, I don't think there'd be anybody left, would they? I will just say, everybody, you have got 10 minutes to vote for next week's film before I forget to close the thingy. So, okay. So this is where is it Mr.
Grey assaults the
smacks him in the
face.
And you see the first seeds of kind of disharmony between.
But also you can see
Mr. Blue and Mr. Grey.
Yeah, but also you can see the Jewish guy and the black guy, sort of like supporting one another in this scene as well, which is quite nice. Do you know what I mean? They have to get to know each other now, these people, because they must travel the tube every day, not even speaking to anybody like normal people. But now they're forced to actually, talk to one another and stuff like that. So, which is quite interesting.
Well, yeah, it's especially prevalent at the time because, again, you have significant, from the assassination of MLK onwards, there was a huge. It ended up via various different means exacerbating community tensions between Jews and between black people because of the way in which the state prioritized the responses to riots, for instance, or enforced where the police moved in and where they didn't move in. There was a perception that they were prioritizing rich areas. And there has always been in New York a significant and ongoing underlying tension. But at the time, it was particularly heightened. So seeing a Jewish man and a black man actually speaking to each other is kind of... It's a subtle deployment of you could call it progressive politics, I guess, but it's a sense of, in the crisis we are all together. So actually we have nothing in common, but actually we have this in common. So maybe we don't have to.
Whereas now, if they were doing this now, they'd be having like online lectures telling that they've done this, and there'd be campaigns.
Yeah, they'd have to squeeze a message in there, an agenda.
Message.
In there. Yep.
Time Prophet in the chat. The carriage is named Lexington after the spaceship from Star Trek.
Or the porn star, Lexington Steele.
How would you know that, Brian?
Because I'm a pervert.
He's a connoisseur. Okay, so Corell realizes the train has been hijacked.
Do you remember that scene where Walter Matthau showing them around, and he says, is it Japanese people showing him around, and he points at him and he says, "You better stay clear."
As well, doesn't he?
He goes, "You better stay clear because this guy shoots fire out of his head, out of his ears." Do you remember that line?
Yep.
Which is kind of enhancing the kind of character that he is, really. You know what I mean? So, which is a nice touch when you think about it. It's very subtle, but it's a very nice touch. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, Mr. Blue issues demands. You know when it said $1 million for 1 hour?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It almost felt like
Dr. Evil's.
Yes,
1 million. Yeah.
So if you adjust that for inflation, that's 5.5 or 5.6 million in today's money, I think. But if they'd made this film a year and a half to 2 years later, the idea that the state could actually afford even $1 million to bail out some hostages would have been hilarious, because New York famously was basically bankrupt and almost declared bankruptcy in 1975 or 1976, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it might not sound like a huge amount of money, but actually there was no money at all. And by no money, I mean the state was defaulting on debts. Not just that they were cutting services. It was just the mayor was telling people, it's up to you to say that we can't afford the health service anymore. So if you want to have a hospital, you've got to staff it yourself for no pay. That was the level of bankruptcy that New York hit just a year and a half after this film came out. So when the mayor says there isn't enough money, he's telling the truth, but they didn't realize the extent of it until just after the film came out.
There was the famous headline when the president, Gerald Ford, visited New York. New York, presidents in New York dropped dead was the big famous headline.
He refused to bail out. The original request was that Gerald Ford should bail them out. Gerald Ford took the position that they got themselves into this mess, so they should get themselves out of it.
Mr. Angel in the chat, was this made before?
It was before Jaws. Yeah. That was before Jaws.
Yeah, we said that earlier. Yeah, just before, mate.
That was his next movie after this film, Jaws.
Yeah. We should cover Jaws at some point.
Yes.
I covered that on PJ. I was on PJ's channel talking about Jaws a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week? I can't remember.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, PJ maybe. Hey, old PJ.
This guy's the one that got caught in the tunnel, didn't he?
Yeah.
Between them both, between the villains and the army, whoever it was.
Patrol Officer James tries to reassure a concerned commuter as route disruptions are felt. Fantastic notes, these.
Do we pass that talk that Walter Matthau had with Patrol? You know, the guy, his best friend, because he calls him Z, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He says, not going to believe it. And he goes, tell me, I'll believe anything. And he goes,
yeah, he was past that. Yeah.
He's been hijacked, and he goes, I don't believe it.
Yeah, he's in the office reading his paper, isn't he?
Yeah, it's great.
It's
seriously. And this guy, he's so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know loads of people that live in New York. My cousins live in New York, and they say that this guy's typical of a New Yorker.
Kaz Jowowitz goes to investigate the source of this of the disruption.
Yeah.
You've got a nice dynamic between the police trying to do their job and the city trying to keep the trains going.
Workers,
But it portrays angry New York very well. That's one of the things I like about this film.
Picard, is it angry?
Yes, it's proper New York. I mean, even when you guys were when you guys were talking about when Earl Hindman was walking onto the train and the conductor was walking off, he's like, "Hey, relax, pal." He goes, "It's not going anywhere without you." You know what? You take the subway today, you get the same thing.
Yeah.
People have no courtesy. They won't let the people exit first. They're shoving their way in any way instead of letting the proper etiquette of people get off first, then you go in. When I would take the subway, I was constantly cursing out people as I would exit the subway because they wouldn't give you that half a second to get out.
I was only there a couple of years ago, and I remember trying to cross the road and people were just walking straight at you. They wouldn't move.
Wow.
They just wouldn't move. Yeah. Crazy.
You've got about 2 minutes to vote for next week's choice, boys and girls. Mr. Brown Alliance in the chat. Okay, so
not
this
Mr. Brown on the subway.
No. Okay, so let's move on a bit. And Matthau. I've lost my place on the number here. Number 31.
Gerber takes command.
Yeah, that's it. He's talking to Mr. Blue, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brian, if you could keep on top of this, because I need multiple screens, you see. It's I can't get
Another good thing about this film is that the way they speak to the kidnappers or the terrorists, or whatever you want to call them, like the angry guy says, "You must be crazy," literally calling them like lunatics and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no gentle way of actually talking to them, is there?
This is an era before professional hostage negotiation, which are multiple psychology degrees. You have to talk them down. And then they're fucking nutters. Just call them lunatics.
Yeah.
Mr. Angel in the chat, I want that yellow tie.
Yes.
I bought a yellow tie just before lockdown started, and yellow ties are fantastic.
They're not. They're bad. The microphone's lovely, though. I actually had one of those. I was in a band
for the right colour shirt. They're amazing.
I was in a band and we loved the retro microphone, so we just bought a few and used those. It looked, they're good. I like this. I might buy another one.
I think you used to be able to get those kind of things in the gadget shop back in the 90s, early 2000s.
You can still get them.
It's really cool actually. When you look at the remake, it's all very technology driven, but when you watch this, it's all very 70s, and I just love the way they all have to go about this business because they don't have cell phones. They don't, they literally have to do the work on it, don't they? So crazy.
Right, okay.
Ben Stiller's dad. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Rico Petroni.
Yeah. Great character, even though he's not in it a lot, but he's a great character. And this is the mayor's house. Love the mayor. The mayor is so funny.
Classic useless politician.
Yeah. He's got the flu, isn't he?
Yeah.
He was also, I think he's played a mayor 3 times in his career, but one of them, the one I recognised him from, was from Batman '89.
Of course. But I can't remember the guy that's the assistant. He looks so familiar, but for the life of me, I can't remember what films he's been in. I'm sure he's been in a lot of movies.
Tony Robbins. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. He's been. Yeah, you've seen him around. We've seen him around tons of. Can't place him right now.
Could I? But when you see him and when you hear him, you realise that you've seen him in loads of movies. But for the life of me, I can't even point out one movie that he's been in. But,
right, the poll is closed. Would you like the results?
Oh, yes.
Go for it.
I will genuinely say, I love you guys in the chat.
So it's not the Lord of the Rings.
Guys, you're wonderful. You can come on here anytime. So, in reverse order, number 3, Fellowship of the Ring.
Number 3?
The kidding.
27%.
Fuck me. It's the only ones we've done.
I'd rather not, but in runner-up position, Godfather Part 2 with 31%. And winner with 40%. Good choice, everybody. Galaxy Quest. So next week we will be doing Galaxy Quest.
Good film.
And then we will do Godfather and then Lord of the Balls the week after.
You'll have to time it so Rennie is around for that one.
Yeah. Well done, guys. You came through for the channel. Well done. I'm very, very pleased with that. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Okay, so.
Completely the wrong decision, but well done, chat. Yeah.
It's the correct decision. I think, Picard, you'll agree with me with that, won't you? It's the correct decision.
Yes. For more reasons than we can say right now.
Yeah. Okay, so that's, as we said, that's the mansion. I love the font that's just been kind of filmed and then kind of superimposed over the top. You got kind of like it's not clean, is it? Anyway, so okay.
Welcome to Graphic Designer Snobbery on the
Sorry,
Mr.
mate.
Browner
Sorry. Mephisto in the chat. Galaxy Quest. You need to watch Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. No, we don't, because it's rubbish. God, that was back in the old VHS days. Do you remember that? Was that did that have fucking Molly Ringwald in it, or am I thinking of something else?
fucking not Molly Ringwald.
Molly Ringwald. Or it had a woman who looked similar. And did it have a geezer called, was it Peter Krause? Anyway, moving on. Stream Killer. So, okay, this
sounds like a kind of tapeworm.
Yeah, Space Hunter. Fucking hell, that's going back. Jesus. Okay, so this is the mayor then, and he's been to has he been to Wuhan?
Oh dear.
He's got the cold.
Mephisto, thank you. You've earned your badge. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, it did have Molly Ringwald. All right, okay, moving on. Stream Killer. Right, so who's this guy?
He's where he buys the farm, doesn't he?
Kaz.
Or Fat Kaz. Kaz Dolowitz.
He's taking no shit.
Yeah.
However, he may take a couple of bullets instead.
Oh, yeah, because he's going down the tunnel, isn't he?
Yeah.
More ways than one.
He's a man on a mission, isn't he?
Because I think he was sent down before they knew what was really going on. So so he was, and obviously with no cell phones, he wasn't able to communicate.
That's for our English friend. That's mobile phones, everybody.
Yeah, he shoots him, doesn't he, as he's coming?
Yep.
And Angry Man gets the news after this that Kaz has been killed. So it's as I said, it's a good scene, and he's stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Between the army and
nobody knows
villains.
he's there, do they?
No one knows he's there.
And what was his line? Nobody knows. That's one of his lines, isn't it?
He makes a comedic reference to the color of his skin when he says, "I don't want to be caught in the crossfire because I won't stand out," or something along that line. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Would never be allowed today. That.
Yeah. Yep.
It wouldn't.
No.
And the N word was used earlier on the.
Also, before I forget, do you remember the end? Well, not the ending, but before the ending, when Walter Matthau meets the commander-in-chief of the police force.
Yes. I thought you
were taller.
I don't know what I thought.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I think the boys in the chat, they're well into their kind of low-budget 80s sci-fi VHS stuff.
I've seen
Space Hunter, yeah.
And
I've
then if you could like that sort of thing.
Star Crash.
Star Crash is weird.
With the Hoff.
Yeah, but it had Carolyn Monroe in it, so it was forgiven.
Yeah, I think maybe we should at some point do some, maybe as a collective group of films. Okay, so
I think this is where he gets told that Kaz
it's a great tie, is that? Yeah.
What do you mean knew him?
Yeah, that's it. That's the line.
Yep.
What a great scene.
That Kaz?
Oh God, the police chief look typically like a police chief, doesn't he?
Cheesy hat. On a cigar.
Straight. He looks like he's walked off straight off the '60s Batman.
So who's this guy? Sorry,
he's the chief of police.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. Commissioner. I think he's the chief of police. And I don't know this guy. He's the head of the unit or something like that, isn't he? And
I've
he's
seen
a
this
character
guy
as
in
well.
other stuff.
Yeah, he's a character as well. Very New Yorkish.
The Pope of Greenwich Village, I think he was in.
Yes, he was. Yes,
and a dozen other movies we all know.
Yeah. He plays the same character all the time.
Yeah.
But
Mephisto in the chat. No problem, mate. We do it every week. It always bounces at tangents, but we get back to the. I think that's the whole point of the channel, isn't it? We just talk. So
talk rubbish.
Yeah, we talk shite, mate, but we get there in the end. Okay,
this is so funny when they all come round to was it $1 million? Was it how much they were after raise?
Yeah. Put it on a pound, dollars per vote. Yeah.
And they say that line, which has been said to loads of Mears in films, what would I do? And he goes, well, let's look at it this way. You'd say, what is it? Was it 7? How many people are in the carriage? Voters.
17 or
17.
18. I think 18.
17.
Yeah.
18.
18 voters.
18.
It was, yeah. Good line.
18 sure votes.
Mr. Angel in the chat. Yes, I remember Killer Fried Tomatoes.
Yeah,
Was it Fried Green?
Nah, that was another film.
Yeah.
Well done, Mr. Angel, for a bit of moddery in there.
That was a funny scene. Yeah. A very funny scene.
Doris Roberts as the First Lady of New York.
Yeah.
That's is that the younger version of what's his name? Raymond's mum.
Yep.
Yeah. Everybody loves Raymond's mother in the
Marie
background.
Barone. Yep.
Yeah. That was a great program. That was.
Yeah.
They're all working. I mean, she's been in a lot of sitcoms. That one, isn't she? Before she became, famous for that role.
Yeah.
I think she was on Remington Steele too.
Yeah.
Was she?
I think so.
I think Everybody Loves Raymond was one of them genuinely very, very good American comedies.
Do you remember that time Channel 4 used to show the American sitcoms in the morning?
Yeah, that's where I watched it before we went to work. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And was it Peter Boyle as the dad? He was great.
Yeah.
It was in Outland as well. Top trivia.
Yeah, another good actor. Another good actor that nobody really talks about. Really, really good actor. There's Teehee from James Bond.
Yeah, that's right. You have two Bond henchmen in this movie.
Yes, you got two.
I thought I've seen him before. Who is he?
Yeah.
Live and Let Die. He was the one with the hook hand, I believe.
He was, yeah. He was. And James Bond says that line when he tries to take his watch off and he couldn't take it off because he had the hook. He went, butter hook. Crap line. Roger Moore. Hilarious.
Great, Roger Moore.
Yeah.
I was thinking before we came on tonight, the Wild Geese just popped into my head. Do you remember
That's
that?
a great movie as well.
Oh, Roger Moore was in that. Wasn't Roger Moore in that?
He was.
Yeah, he was. Because the logic was, the thinking was, because hello Jacob, because the Robert Shaw character was a mercenary, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Wild Geese just popped in, and The Wild Geese is a great film.
It is. You know what?
Great film.
I saw it when I can't remember how old I was. I was in secondary school, and they played it last day of school. They literally had it on 16mm, the whole film, and they played it to the whole school. And it's really violent. And we're watching this film.
It is.
Going, this film is so violent. As kids, we loved it, though. We absolutely loved it.
My brother took me to the cinema to watch it, and I would have been 11 or 12. Loved it.
That film traumatized me as a kid. Do you know, there was the horrifying scene where Roger Moore's character feeds the guy the drugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what film that was from, but we were talking on the Captain's stream just only a couple of months ago, believe it or not, and I mentioned it was that scene that really horrified me, and it was Scotty R37 that worked out what film it was I was talking about. Yeah.
But the scene that made me wince, right, is the bit where Whitty, which was the gay soldier, gets stabbed up by the army. You're in a bit where he goes, "Come on, lovelies," and they all jump on him and they stab him up. I thought that was horrible when I first watched it.
I will say to the chat then, Wild Geese going to be upcoming in a few weeks, boys and girls. So homework, The Wild Geese. I think it was 1980. Richard Burton, Roger Moore.
Yeah, all-star cast.
Yeah,
Richard Harris.
Yeah, it's good. The Wild Geese. So homework, boys and girls. Okay, so moving on. Let's pile through these. So the Robert Shaw character is laying the law down, isn't he, with timings? Because we all know what the secret of comedy is, don't we? So,
well, he didn't.
No. Yeah.
So he wants $1 million by,
And
is
he-
it 312 or 314?
Yeah, he wants them in different, like, what was it, 1,000 in
nominations.
tens or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thick rubber bands.
Yeah,
because they'd worked it out to the vests that they'd were wearing, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. There you go.
I like this sequence with the music and just the way they just
Yes,
zip through
fantastic.
everybody
Yeah.
counting. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And this shot here, just by loosening his tie, tells the audience
Nice
subconsciously that he's under stress, but also time has gone by. And
Gerber
next time you
pleads for
see
more
him,
time.
yeah, and next time you see him, he doesn't have his jacket on, which basically tells the audience again that he's under more stress and more time has gone by. So, you know, it was very visual that people don't notice that, you know, these things that the filmmaker did to move the story along as much as they could. Because as I said, this is a very heavily driven dialogue film, basically. So they wanted to move it along as much as they could.
Speaking of move it along, Mr. Angel, yeah, 1 million. Dr. Evil, yeah. Cam, the stuntman of the channel, Wild Geese, great ensemble cast, good choice. Yeah, as I said, boys and girls, we'll do it in the next few weeks. We'll get the films we chose earlier out of the way, and we'll just pop that in. It's a great film, Wild Geese.
Roger Moore was terrific in it. I like when Richard Harris puts his hand through the door with the hand grenade. What a brilliant scene.
Lost Chord, you seen Wild Geese?
The name is familiar, but I'm struggling to place it.
Right, we'll sort it out for you, don't worry. Okay,
Made by the same people that made Bond. James Bond.
Eon Productions.
Yeah, Eon Productions. Hence why they have the opening credit sequence to Wild Geese, just like a Bond movie. So
and coincidentally, Roger Moore.
And sang by I can't remember the African girl that sang it. I think she's African.
Was it Shirley Bassey?
No, it wasn't. It was Joan Armitage. Joan Armitage. I think it was.
Joan Armatrading.
That's it. Her. She sang it. The Wild Geese theme.
I won't put on screen time profits comment. Naughty boy.
Oh, jeez.
This is what the car smashes, isn't it?
It's the ice cream or the hot dog seller,
yeah. And those two. This is so well cast. Those two cops in the car. There's no way you can't say they come from New York. I'm pretty sure they cast everyone in this film from New York.
Yeah, the driver is Cam.
Oh,
for fuck's sake.
But there's another example, as you were saying, Ian, about like the great filmmaker from the era. It's not CGI, and you feel like you're along for the ride, and you're stressed out like the cops are having to get the money. They've only got a couple of minutes to get through New York traffic, which is an impossibility to begin with. Yeah.
And as I said, you know, it's old school filmmaking, and I just love it personally. Love it.
Okay, so we'll pile through these because we're just taking a little bit longer than what we should, but it's a good film. Okay, so the cars hit the embankment, the barriers.
Yeah.
I love it how you can see the people in the crowd on the sidewalk who were obviously watching the action being filmed.
Yep, they certainly was.
Sidewalk being the pavement for our English viewers, by the way.
But they still look like they were there and they were being separated by the police because of they wanted to clear the roads for this car. So it's a good.
So it still works. Yeah.
Yeah, still, of course, it works. Yeah.
Great writing.
Well, great organization, I guess.
Yeah.
And so here's a scene where his hair's a bit messed up. He's a bit under stress. Walter Matthau. And he's still giving out the funnies.
He's realising the money ain't going to arrive on time.
But he realises that they don't know it either. So he plays it, doesn't he?
Yeah. By saying the money
has arrived. The money has arrived.
Yeah. Which it hadn't.
No, it hadn't. Yeah. Great stuff.
So I don't think we got to that stage yet, though. But or it might be actually at this time. So
what's that?
When the Walter Matthau characters realised that the hijackers haven't got any eyes on the street, so they don't know if the money's not arrived. So he says, "It's here. Which it
Yeah,
happened,
that's
but-
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But he manages to.
And that see that cop there on the right, he was in Soap, as I recall. Do you remember the TV show
Soap was brilliant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had a big part in Soap, which I can't remember who he was playing, but yeah.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah.
Soap was brilliant. Another American comedy which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So those guys are trying to.
What a great scene.
They've got the money. They're going down the tube with the money,
Mm.
and then they see the police officer that nobody knows is there.
And he tries to pretend to shoot, and then somebody shoots from behind him.
Yeah.
That's when the shit hits the fan.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like he's doing pew pew pew, and then somebody
One of the
accidentally
snipers
takes
got
a pot
spooked.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, police are coming for me. What's going on there?
It's live action right now.
Stream killer. Okay, Wookiee Fever 19 blah, 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 69. Soap was freaking awesome. It was.
It was.
Mhm.
Was.
I fancied a girl in that. I can't remember who it was I fancied in that show. So
Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal. He played a gay guy, didn't he, Billy Crystal?
Yep.
Never
Yeah.
wouldn't be allowed today though,
No.
because he's
he
not
has to be
gay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is the sparks of the bullets flying, is it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Think so.
Slide
Just the
55.
shots.
Yeah,
exchanged.
shots. Yes, shots exchanged. So this is gunfire. Yeah.
Mm.
And the guys just go down. They're not shot, but they just go down.
Yeah, I think Mr. Not Grey, the other one, Mr. Green. He gets in the shoulder, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, it does. Was it in his arm?
Yeah, you got the shoulder.
went
Yeah.
through-
It's-
went
through
through.
his
I
arm
think
or
it's
something.
Brown that gets it, is it not?
Oh,
Yeah.
Brown.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Earl Hindman.
It's always Brown that gets it.
Gets in the ass.
Or Brown in the eye.
And then Mr. Is he Mr. Green? This one? No, he's Mr. Blue, isn't he? He starts firing
Yeah.
like no tomorrow, losing his rag.
Yeah. And this
Oh,
is
the
where,
poor fella.
Yeah.
Yep.
because he's going to be made an example of.
Yeah. He's very calming,
Why me?
isn't he?
Why me?
Robert
Why me?
Shaw.
Why me?
Robert
Why
Shaw.
me?
Said, don't worry, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, you know.
This is what I love about when you
Conductor
compare
of
and
the train.
contrast the original with the Travolta
Yes.
version.
Yeah.
Just maybe I don't want to say I'm anti Travolta, but I just don't buy him as a dark, truly evil character. Where Shaw, I mean, he just he's flat out, he's just evil. He's gonna
Yes.
he's gonna kill you.
Yes.
There's no play. He's just all business. If you don't follow my rules, you're dead. And he sticks by it.
Yeah, the John Travolta, he obviously decided to play it differently, over the top and crazy, which never really works, because when you have someone that's totally in control and very measured, he's more to fear than the person that's screaming and shouting. You know.
Yep.
Darth Vader versus Kylo Ren, in other words.
Yes.
Were they using the British bad guy trope?
No, because in those days it wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
So, because
that's what I'm
Robert
saying,
Shaw,
it was like early.
yeah,
like, leading
Robert
the way
Shaw-
with this.
Yeah, well, Robert Shaw was really well known in those days and really
Yeah.
sought after. So it was a thing to get him, you know. So
I don't think they played up that he's British either. They weren't. It wasn't. He was just a mercenary.
There is
think,
one
yeah.
really good line though when he says, I think when they're describing the
Fruitcake.
hostage takers, he says he's got a strong English accent. He might be
Yeah.
a fruitcake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Which
true.
is quite funny. But no, I think. I mean,
Are you a
it might have been early
fruitcake,
days for it.
Oscar?
But sorry.
Are you a fruitcake?
On occasion, I will. Yes.
Your partner in crime is, you can tell.
I'll pass the message on.
Yes.
There are some the British bad guy has been a trope since before the days of film. Obviously, it became more pronounced, I think, towards the 80s. But you still had with Robert Shaw in this case, also James Mason, who was very often cast in similar roles where you wanted someone who had that calm and that measure. not sort of erratically evil, not violently evil, but very, very considered and restrained and cold and methodical. And the British were always usually sort of go-tos for that. Evelyn Waugh wrote a book about Hollywood from the perspective of an English writer who had been involved in an American production and made some of the same observations in these differences in character between American portrayals of character and English portrayals of character. So it's an old, long-standing thing. And it's why Robert Shaw works so well in this particular role as well.
But I think the film that actually made it prevalent was Die Hard with Alan Rickman. Yeah.
Hans Gruber, who we'll be discussing Alan Rickman because he's on Galaxy Quest.
Yes, he is.
By Granthor's hammer, I shall avenge thee. Okay. So this is the trainee inspector or driver. He's going to get it, isn't he? Paul
He had a good future until this happened.
A good pension plan.
Yeah.
Dental.
Yeah. What is that line? He says, "Christ, did you have to shoot him?"
Yep.
That's his name says to him. But, yeah.
So the two cops deliver the money after the guy's been shot. Here we go.
Yeah.
The money.
The money. Look at the money. The money. But it's really funny, right? Because
Money.
no, it's funny because the Robert Shaw character, up to all this point, he's totally in control. He even tells the others to pick up the money and count it and separate it and all that. But then when Mr. Grey gets, or is it Hector? When Hector gets killed, he's like, "Grab his money." Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And they all start stuffing the money in. Just goes to say he was basically just a thief, really. Let's face it. He was, just a
thief with military training.
Yeah. But more or less a thief. That kind of
I did like it how they'd specific denominations so they could fit it into their jackets.
Yeah. Well, that was the plan, wasn't it? Oh, I love this scene.
Oh, it's great.
And you can tell that when he threw him on the chair, he missed his mark.
Yeah,
he fell right on his ass. You can tell.
Gerber finally loses his patience with Carell.
And, he's got his jacket off, his tie's undone, his hair is all not combed, and he's under stress.
And then
this guy just pushed his button. Yeah, and he shoves him on the chair. Really good scene.
Yeah. So this is where... Have they got off the train now? And they going
No, this is the bit where they're sorting out how to make the train go without having your leg on the or your hand.
Assembling the
dead man.
They're overriding that.
Yeah.
You gotta have constant pressure on the lever.
Okay. We'll pile through these. And this is the... Yeah.
Which was, if you remember earlier in the movie, there was that funny line when they find out there's an undercover, and then somebody goes, "Man or woman?" He goes, "I didn't even think to ask."
Yeah, I think one line was, "I hope it's not a broad."
Yeah.
There's lots of sexism in this film.
Yep.
Well, as I said, it's not, as somebody pointed out, it's not that
problematic.
It's the way they spoke in those days and the way they regarded each other in those days. You know what I mean? It wasn't considered... Yes, it is horrible, and yes, it is. You shouldn't be calling a woman a broad, but it's New York of the 70s, isn't it? It's how they spoke,
If do you think, I'll throw this out to Lost Chord, he's kind of an expert on this. If Walter Matthau was alive today, would the woke tards try and cancel him for all this?
Yeah, so there was an article in the Telegraph a couple of days ago on sensitivity readers, is what they're called. We did a quick video on it, and the job of the sensitivity reader is they're employed by, this is in the context of books, but the same thing happens with film studios, I'm sure. They're employed to read the manuscripts of prospective authors, and including established authors, and that they're picked based on their lived experience. So if somebody is a black, disabled, lesbian dwarf, then they tick a lot of boxes. So they'll be brought in to read the manuscript of anyone who happens to be writing any character who has any of these descriptive parts to themselves. And it will be the job of the sensitivity reader to report to the publisher whether or not the character described accords with their own lived experience. And if it doesn't, then they will flag it. They have a whole system in place. It's like a DEFCON type system of insensitivity levels or problem levels. So there's an established Scottish author. She wrote a memoir. She had part of this memoir was her experiences growing up with gay friends. She's not. I don't think she is herself gay, despite being a Scottish poet. So you'd assume she's a lesbian, but nevertheless, she had gay friends. And one of this part of this memoir is that she's with a younger gay friend. That his first time at a gay club, and it recounts the advice that she gave to him and the concerns that she had. This woke 19-year-old sensitivity reader who was not alive in the 1970s and didn't know what it was like to be gay in the 1970s flagged this manuscript for being insensitive, for using the language that was used at the time in this autobiography. So it's almost impossible to make films like this today because publishers, film companies are so terrified of this reputational risk that they employ people specifically to look for any offense that could feasibly be taken by anybody, and if it's flagged up, then the manuscript will be turned down. So that's one of the many reasons you can't get films like this today, and you can't get books like you used to get today, is because they employ people to ensure that it won't happen.
It's just mind-blowing
way around that.
Yeah, you get that in the States. I mean, I mean, you guys know the famous book To Kill a Mockingbird. They're banning it from classes, you know, because of racial derogatory names that are used, but overlooking the fact of the powerful story that it is against racism, but because it has bad stereotypical words, they want it banished, despite the message of the book being the opposite.
Yeah, it's the Fahrenheit 451 thing again. Black people don't like Little Black Sambo, burn the book. Cigarette people don't like the anti-cigarette adverts, burn the anti-cigarette adverts. Anything you don't like, even if you don't understand the thing, if you just react against it emotively, that's enough. Just burn it. Burn it all, Montag.
Lost Chord, would you like to post your link to your channel in the chat? And I'll just say to everybody in the chat, Lost Chord, the Little Platoon podcast is well up on stuff like this, and it's a great channel. You should check it out. His subs are doing very, very well at the moment, aren't they, Lost Chord? You're going in the right direction.
I think last time we were on the channel, we were on 550, and we're now, I think we just hit 700, so it's going...
Yeah, that's thanks to me, obviously.
Absolutely it is.
Mine are going down, yours are going up, but, you know, the gift of giving.
Well, I picked up on the Star Trek thing. Lots of people hate Star Trek, or hate modern new Trek even.
You've got to see an opportunity, mate, and leap on it. So you're doing well, yeah. You've got to see an opportunity.
I think I've pinged that link into the chat, but I'm a premature boomer, so I might have done it incorrectly.
Well, we all are. There you go. Everybody, check out Little Platoon's channel. It's great.
We've just got one already. That's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Moving on.
What channel was that?
Little Platoon podcast.
Oh, I just subscribed to that.
Fantastic.
Ben's okay. Oscar, jury's out on him. But anyway,
you'll have him on one day. He's not always insane.
Both of you, as I said, both of you are more than welcome to come on at the same time. Could be a good dynamic. Okay, so where are we? Back to the film, boys and girls. So, Mr. Brown, not me, suspects something has fallen from the train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the train's moving, isn't it, at this point?
It was the cop.
It was the cop, yes. And on the station board, they've got it's moving.
Oh, this leads to that great everybody not knowing what's going on. Where I forget the lady, she goes to Walter Matthau. She's moving. Who's moving? Pelham 1, 2, 3, and then he goes to she's moving. Well, who's moving? Z? What do you think? And then he just chasts everybody for making the same mistake he did.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
So what do you think's moving?
Yeah, very good.
Really,
that was good humor. That was.
And it's like it's gonna stop. It's
Yep. Got to stop.
the Jewish guy, has all that faith.
Got the dead one switch.
I told you. Brilliant.
So the red lights. We hit a red light. There's only one problem, baby. They're all
green.
Brilliant. Totally brilliant.
I would say, Picard, well done for doing that accent, but you didn't need to try, do you? So yeah. Okay, so the train's increasing speed. Almost like the Spider-Man scene, where the train gets faster and faster.
Mm.
Was that the first one or the second one? I can't remember.
Second.
Second one, yeah.
So they're going to a location, aren't they? Where was it the kind of circuit bit at the end of the track where it's going?
Well, Walter Matthau guessed that they know how to beat the dead man switch, and he reckons, what is it? He was like going to get a drop on them, so they were going to move further up.
Yeah, but he's realizing that's they're doing something clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because first he shot down the inspector.
Yes.
When the inspector said, and he goes, "No, good try, but they got the dead man switch." And then later on, he goes, "We got to go back." He goes, "What do you mean? I suggested that earlier. You shot me down."
Yeah. So.
Reverse jackets and hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remove mustaches.
Yeah, and this is where Hector gives him shit for all the rules that he's got and stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah. He wants to keep his gun as well, doesn't he? But
yeah.
I think this is the Jewish guy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically saying, "No, wait, the train will stop," and all that rubbish. It's like, so funny.
Be a red light. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love those cars. Look at that
think this
car.
is where
That's
the
Men
car,
in Black car, isn't it?
Yeah. So Gerber pursues the squad car. I think they've realised that something's going down. Yeah. They suspect the Deadman switch has been bypassed.
Yeah.
And this is where he's kind of refusing to
give his gun up.
Yeah, his machine gun, Mr. Grey.
Blow it at your ass, Mr. Blue.
And then Mr. Grey is shot by Mr. Blue.
Get his money.
Yep.
Good shot as well, because they shot him just above the heart.
Yeah.
Because obviously the money would have been protected. I think one wad of notes got hit.
Yes.
Got blood on it.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is the undercover policeman who's in the tunnel recovering from his injuries from jumping off the train. He's kind of come round. Luckily, he didn't hit the electric rail.
Yeah.
He did not.
Yeah. He is injured, though.
We get shot by... he shoots him, and then he gets shot by Robert Shaw, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I go down.
Mr. Brown goes down.
Yeah.
Down goes
Not in a
Brown.
good way.
Doesn't he have a speech impediment as well?
Probably. Yeah, probably. I don't think he says much, does he?
No, he doesn't.
No.
He looks up the tunnel. He looks up the stairwell. Yeah. Mephisto in the chat. Yeah. Gran Torino Starsky and Hutch car. Yeah. So Mr. Brown's been. I was tussing again. Then sorry. False fabric. I can't stop myself. This is a gunfight. This is the Robert Shaw, isn't it? Trying to get the policeman. Oh, I think he hits him, doesn't he?
He does. He hits him. He falls.
This is Mr. Green.
Yeah, Mr. Green without his moustache.
Why couldn't they wear colour-coded clothing? That'd have been.
Gosh, he could have got away with it, couldn't he?
If it wasn't for those meddling kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
Back to his own apartment was a bit of a silly move.
Oh.
He had to go back to his apartment, otherwise, because they knew that they were going to make the rounds, didn't they, with the X.
Yeah. Well, they could have put the money somewhere else, though.
Yeah,
he could have. He could have. Yeah, definitely could have.
So the funny part is, somebody coming up from just from the thing.
The sewers,
like New York, nobody pays attention.
Is that what they do in New York? Just don't pay attention to anything.
Exactly.
So I think this is the police officer. He's been hit.
Yeah, And
But
what's
he's
his
still
name's
alive.
about to shoot him.
Mhm.
He's about to shoot him.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You
I
Garber. Do you still execute people in this country? He says.
Yeah. Not that I
He says,
know of.
no,
Not
not
the,
this.
not the
Yeah,
moments. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
pity. He says.
Then Mr. Was it Mr. Blue weighs his options
Yeah.
because he says, "Do you want to split the money?" And
Electrocutes himself.
Yep.
There you go.
This is
I
that nice
mean-
payoff from right at the beginning of the film when,
Yeah.
they have all of the rest of the passengers walking off, and you hear them frequently say, "Watch out for the third rail!
Yeah.
Watch out for the third rail!" So now, when he steps in it, everyone immediately knows that he's done it deliberately and that this makes sense. This is why this is happening. This is why it's killing him. And it seems really innocuous at the beginning of the film until you get this payoff. But again, it's relatively. It shouldn't even be very complicated to do. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's just nevertheless something we've forgotten how to do. Apparently, we don't do it anymore.
I love
Well,
the
how
smoke
else are they going to be
coming
able
out of
to?
him.
How else are you going to be able to subvert expectations if you don't put foreshadowing and common sense writing? You're just gonna-
And the poor fella, he gets electrocuted here and he gets eaten by a shark in his next film.
Yeah.
yeah,
Think of the 2 worst ways to go.
Yeah.
it was great in the Battle of Britain as well.
Oh yeah.
I love that film. I don't know why. I just love it. I love it.
It was great in Russia with Love as well. He was brilliant
Yeah.
as the henchman villain.
Yeah.
Is it Grant? I think?
Is it the Battle of Britain where one of the general's dogs is called the N-word?
That's the Dam Busters.
That's the Dam Busters. That was it.
We should do some war films some point.
I've
Wild
seen
Geese.
a lot of old war films.
I love war films. War is
brilliant.
good.
War.
I will happily sit through The Longest Day. It's a brilliant film.
Great film.
Yeah.
I'll just
Saving
say,
Private Ryan.
boys and girls in the chat, name some war films you would fancy us discussing some point. Time Prophet, Dam Busters.
Very good.
Yeah, it's old as the hills, and the effects are dodgy at the end, but I'd still sit down and watch it.
It won an Oscar, didn't it, for the special effects? Or did it? Can't remember.
Look who's here. War.
Oh, it's
What is it
3PO.
good for? Fuck all,
The problem
mate.
is, like, for every war, even every small war, you get a decade's worth of bad Oliver Stone movies these days, which is it's not.
Oh, I like Oliver Stone, but he just went a bit too political. As he
That's
went
the,
along.
yeah. I mean, some of them. Platoon is a really good film.
Yeah.
It's just a
Oh.
lot of his other stuff is not good.
Great
Battle of the Bulge,
film.
good film.
Great film.
Dunkirk.
Private
the original
Ryan.
Dunkirk.
Great film. I even like Dunkirk as well. That's
The original
great.
one has a really great line when there's a guy who's panicking. He says, "I don't want to die. I don't want to die." And one of the soldiers behind him says, "Well, he might bloody well have to."
Yeah.
Yeah, Bridge on the River
Bridge of-
Kwai, fantastic.
yeah.
What have I done?
Oof.
Yeah. Great movie.
Maybe at some point we should do a stream where we do maybe 3, 4, 5 of the big war movies and just try and pile through.
Where
them.
Eagles Dare.
Yeah.
What about that one?
Oh,
With the,
Where Eagles Dare.
with the 60s helicopter in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Moving on. Okay, so Mr. Is it green?
Blue.
Blue.
He gets smoke
Electric is
coming out
blue,
of his
isn't it?
ears.
Electric
Brilliant.
blue. So it's electric
Yeah.
blue.
there you go.
80s porn. Electric
Pity.
blue, boys and girls.
I like that line. A pity. And he just.
There you go. Meanwhile, back on the train.
Yeah.
Speeding towards potential death.
Yeah, where's Spider-Man when you need him?
Yeah.
He wasn't
Peter
even born.
Parquet.
Peter Parker wasn't even born. Well, in the comics he was.
Ian, which is the best Spider-Man film?
2, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's great.
Maybe we should cover that at some point. Don't think we've done a Spider-Man film, have we?
I mean, as much as I like No Way Home, I still think Spider-Man 2 was the best.
Yeah. The optimist, the Jewish guy.
Yeah. It was just when the train stopped, didn't it? He was smiling.
Yeah.
If I may quickly, Jacob Ironside at Mr. Angel. My grandfather was in the real Battle of the Bulge. Wow.
Battle of the Bulge, was that a sex film or something? No?
Or a film about dieting. Yeah, the was it Band of Brothers when they covered the Battle of the Bulge? Band of Brothers was a fantastic TV series.
I was on set for that.
wow.
Band of Brothers, yeah.
For the whole
What were you
shoot,
doing?
or
What were you doing?
I was assisting the producer at one point. I was only there for a week, just covering for somebody else. Oh, there you go.
And was it good?
It was interesting, but I was on set a lot. But majority of the time I was in the office, which was annoying because I really wanted to be on set.
Was that shot in Ireland?
It wasn't shot in Ireland. It was shot over here. The bits that I was the bits that I was involved in was in Pinewood Studios.
Okay. MC in the chats. It is.
Yeah.
Fantastic TV series.
I was there when David Swimmer was there.
I was going to say
he was great. I mean, you hated his guts, and he played the role perfectly.
I hated him in Friends as well. I hated Friends.
Yeah, and I couldn't get into that show.
My mum and my sister loved it, and they used to binge watch it. So it was every day for a period of 6 months. I'd come downstairs and Friends would be on. It was
pain.
Have you seen the YouTube videos where they remove the laugh tracks? And it's
I can imagine.
Stony silence, and you wonder why the fuck anybody ever watched this series.
Quick question to the chat: do you like Friends?
I like Friends.
Why for yes and for no?
They would never make Friends today though, because it's too white.
Yeah, no boxes are checked there.
It's problematic.
They've actually done essays on that because Netflix picked up, I think, all of Friends for a while, and like Slate magazine was doing long essays on why Friends is a problematic series because it's too upper middle class, it's too uniformly white, it's too this, that, and the other. I think no, there are so many problems with Friends. That's not anywhere near the top of my list. It's a comedy that isn't very funny. That's the top of my list.
Yeah, it's just not funny.
I thought it was funny.
It's just very chintzy.
No, I think that's the charm of it. And they're good-looking women, good-looking men, and they all had their own personalities, and they were very, very funny. And
Joey was about the only thing what was kind of half decent in it.
I thought it worked very well.
The chat doesn't like it.
There were some really funny episodes. I think the earlier ones when they were getting started, and when you hadn't seen about 15 other comedies which are all modelled off of Friends. The early ones kind of worked, and I think to the extent I liked it at all, I did like some of the early episodes. It just went on too long, and then every other American sitcom became Friends, and then that tarnishes your impression of everything else as well. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I remember an episode where Robin Williams and Billy Crystal was sitting on the couch.
Oh yeah,
and they were really funny.
Time Prophet in the chat, just calling it as it is. Friends was not too white. It was just crap.
I liked it.
Mephisto, I'd rather watch Baywatch. Yeah, I was well into Baywatch.
Baywatch was fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody knows why you were watching Baywatch. Everybody knows why.
Mm-hmm.
Those slow motions.
I don't think it was genuinely. I don't think Baywatch was too bad.
I didn't like it.
First couple of series I thought were very good.
I watched it for the women, but I couldn't tell you what happened. I couldn't tell you what happened in each episode.
Not a single plot point is remembered.
No, could not. No.
Baywatch had a plot.
Exactly.
Okay, so Dead hijackers identified as hunts for surviving hijacker begins.
Oh, just one thing. You gotta go back. Not to go back, but remember when after Shaw kills himself, and now you don't have to go back with the slides. When he sees the undercover cop that's like down, he only sees the long hair, and he calls him ma'am or miss.
Yeah,
he goes,
yeah,
all right, don't worry
yeah.
about it, ma'am or miss.
Yeah. I love these two because you can tell just by the way they speak to each other, they've been friends for forever, these two.
Yeah.
And at the ending, obviously, they team up to find the missing guy. But it's just that the way he actually refers to him as Z. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Which speaks
we know
volumes.
somebody who's called Z. Wookiee Fever 1969, Baywatch, TNA Express.
Mm-hmm.
Was, mate?
It was.
Okay. So
who was the one that took over after Pamela Anderson?
Was it Gina Lee Nolan?
I can't remember, but I know there were two really good-looking, gorgeous, fit women. Pamela Anderson was one of them, but there was one before her or after her. I can't remember. Oh, the girl that was yes, her. She was an E.T. That girl, of course. Nobody remembers that. You know the little blonde girl in E.T. that fancied
Drew Barrymore?
Elliot? No, the little girl that fancied Elliot. She ended up in Baywatch.
Oh, Eric.
That's it. Her.
She was in.
Eleniac.
Oh, she was in the Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eleniac.
Yeah, that's it.
Fit.
Yeah. Did she not replace Anderson? I can't remember. I really can't remember.
Yeah.
Yasmin Bleeth. See the guy.
Yeah. She joined.
She was a dark-haired.
The guys are well into it. You can tell. Carmen Electro. Erica Eleniac.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one I remember the most. I do remember Pamela Anderson, but I think I remember her the most.
Time Prophet, Mr. Brown Alliance. You need to do a call chat watch.
Is that meant to be Kojak?
No, you talking about the Night Stalker?
Oh,
Jack?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Darren McGavin. That was.
If I knew what it was.
It started off as 2 television movies on ABC in the States, and then it spun off into a weekly series that lasted for 1 year. And Darren McGavin played Carl Kolchak. It was the big inspiration for the X-Files. Chris Carter's big inspiration for the X-Files.
Okay. Right. Somebody needs to remind me about that then. Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick idea though, based on how much interest Chad has demonstrated in this topic. Maybe whenever you go on, like we go on tangents about something not related to the films where the slides aren't required, just slow-mo scenes from Baywatch, and then it goes on. And maybe just
that'd be great.
This is the bit where I admit I've never seen a single minute of a single second even of Baywatch, but from the chat's impression, I gather it was artistically good, so I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Visually stunning.
Maybe then we should do a Baywatch slow-mo stream.
I'm going to look it up on YouTube and see if there's any slow-mo from Baywatch. Slow-mo.
Just have that as the backdrop to any live stream and you will get tens of thousands of viewers, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
What do they come up with? Hasselhoff running in slow motion. What is that all about? Oh, no. Seriously. Oh, who's this? Oh, no.
So they're going around now trying to find out the
there's a film
driver.
we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about the film. That's it. I'm going to do my damnedest to finish it 2 hours.
Bloody hell. YouTube is taking off all the slow-mos running from...
Motherfuckers.
Oh.
It's problematic, you see. Okay, so they're going around trying to find out who the missing man is, the hijacker, and this guy's disabled, so it's not him.
Yeah. He had to pay the toll, didn't he?
Yeah,
and he'd been there all day.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Yeah. You know, PCAT. I mean, that's what New Yorkers are like, though. Yeah. Let's face it. Angry town. Yeah. Angry town.
You know, the sad part is like somebody can just drop right in front of you and you'll just watch people just step right over the body and just keep going like nothing happened.
I'll just say good night, Mephisto. Thanks for tuning in, mate. So, Picard, are you angry? Yes.
Yes, not now, but yes.
You're
He's
in
from
your
New York.
Yeah.
Peacat
New
is in
York.
his Peacat is in his safe space, aren't you, right now?
Yes.
Moving on.
I need my safe space from the angry New York.
Are you far from town then, where you live, or are
It's
you
about an hour travel.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
She's American, and that's nothing, is it, for America?
No.
Oh,
Right. So we're
what a
outside
great
the
scene.
IB, or is that
Yeah.
1B?
1B.
I'm IB.
One,
IB.
yeah, 1B.
No, IB. Okay, so
I love how Petroleum has got his uniform on.
Yeah, I was thinking
It's
the exact same
cool.
thing.
yeah.
And Walter Matthau's got his hat. Look at his hat. So funny.
His tie is back up.
Yeah.
Peacat, I think this one's for you. You see it?
Why do they always say people in New York? You gotta say New York.
New
New
York. New York.
New York. New York.
Right, okay, so we're outside the door of... It's green, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that restaurant I went to? Was it the TikTok in New York? For breakfast. Sorry, I'm just
I was
reminiscing.
thinking
cheers,
TikTok
Mephisto.
could
We'll
be
see you next
another,
time, mate.
Place.
Was that?
TikTok,
was
I'm
that-
thinking could be another potential. No, I'm just joking. Like, it sounds like it could be just a typical
It's an app, isn't it? From
adult
China.
oriented.
That's when he dived on the money, isn't he? And he was like,
Yep.
"Ah!"
Yeah, because he thought he'd got away with it, didn't he?
It's so funny.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll pile through these last four.
And
Knock at the door, and then he's
yeah.
having to stuff the
He's-
money in the oven.
And he what is it? Ask for a light for his cigarette, doesn't he? Because he shoves all the money in the
Yeah.
stove.
Yeah. So he's
I
coming
love
in.
this scene when you don't see when he flushes the toilet to act like
Oh,
it's right
yeah,
there,
yeah.
and then you have Walter Matthau go, "I hope he washes his hands first."
So funny. Oh yeah, he kicks the money under the bed, doesn't he?
Yeah, because they've come into the apartment at this time. and he
Walter
sees
Matthau goes, "What a great apartment you've got here." It's like a tip.
Yeah.
So fun.
So this is where he lights the.
He could have got away with it if he didn't, like, he was like, "Come on, get out of my apartment, you guys." You know, he could have, if he just let them leave, they would never have heard him sneeze.
Yeah.
Would they?
Yeah.
Yep. There it is.
The money shot, everybody. The money shot.
No, the next shot should be the money shot. Where's the next shot? I hope Brian got the next shot.
It's not going to be not going to.
Brian's a great
like
producer, so yes. Okay, so we've got a couple more slides to go. So I'll just say to everybody in the chat, cheers for popping in, guys. As I said, next week it's going to be, at your request, Galaxy Quest. Then it was it Godfather 2 the week after, and then we'll do Lord of the Balls the week after that. Possibly do I said war film. We could probably do Wild Geese the week after, because that's technically a kind of semi-war film. We'll see how we get on. So, cheers for the interaction, guys. As I always say, we are nothing without you guys. It would be it'd be just us just talking film, and without your interaction, it's just makes it. So, cheers, guys, for that. So we will just finish off the last few slides, and
what a brilliant shot that is. What a brilliant shot. I love the music. He just stands there looking at him with his hound dog look.
And that goes what you guys were saying earlier too about the foreshadowing, because he's sneezing throughout the movie.
Yeah.
He's constantly, Walter Matthau is constantly saying Gesundheit, and there's that one line when Robert Shaw goes, I think the first time he sneezes, will you stop that?
Yeah.
And that was his.
That's why the remake was such a disappointment, because they turned the ending into a chase on the bridge. And it just missed the whole point of the actual taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. That this version is not about chases. It's not about the gunfights. It's about the challenge between the person that's trying to stop them and the person that's trying to achieve their goal. And all the way through this movie, it was about being clever and showing New York and showing the different types of people that lived in New York and celebrating New York. That's really what it was doing. Yeah. But the remake was just so bad.
And it's what would make. I mean, I've not seen the remake, and obviously this was the first time I'd seen this film. But
average.
I mean, think of how many films you've seen which end in car chases with gunfights, and they all blend into each other. Whereas the ending for this film, it's such a small thing. It's so subtle, and you suddenly realize that a guy who was just sneezing an hour and 40 minutes ago, and you thought nothing of it, and then you realize, no, fuck this. This is the payoff. This is the payoff. This is how everything comes. This is when the moment when it clicks. It's minimalist, but because it's minimalist, it's distinctive, and the payoff is that much greater for it. It would have been a much worse film if they'd just done a gunfight and a car chase.
Yeah.
If everyone else can do that. It's just there's no intelligence to that. This ending is quite a clever ending, and it relies on minimalism.
But if this was made today with that ending, would they have to write novels as a companion to why he sneezed?
The prequel comic strip that you have to read just to understand.
Just to understand the sneeze. Yeah. Okay. So I will ask the guests a paragraph, and then we'll get out of Dodge. So let me put the guest back up. Here we go. So, who shall I ask first? Ian, just a paragraph to sum up.
I'd taken a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Was it 1973?
74.
74 is a brilliant film as far as I'm concerned. Well constructed, well cast, well performed. Everyone involved, well performed. It's a love letter to New York. If you look carefully, it is. And also, it's such an iconic classic film. It's become that. When it was released, it did make money, but it didn't make that much. But it's based on a well-known book of the same name, I think. Yeah. But it is well worth your time. If you have, I'm not speaking to boomers. I'm speaking to people of this generation, the generation that's going to fuck up the world in the future. If you have the patience to sit down and watch this film, I can assure you that you would enjoy it. That's all I can say. But anyway, that's where I'll leave it.
I'll agree with that. It must be 40 odd years since I've seen it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. Lost Chord.
As representative of the generation that's fucking up the world.
Yes. I think they're younger than you, mate.
They probably are, actually. That's the scary thing.
It's not your fault. They're monsters in waiting.
It just gets worse and worse and worse. So I think, in a sense, the fact the most remarkable thing about this film is how well made it is probably more of an indictment of modern film than it is necessarily a point in this film's favor. I mean, it's been said in the course of our conversation, most films, or if not most, then at least many films in the 1970s had this eye for construction and cogency. They made sense. The technique was there. This film really does incredibly well by comparison, because we've seemingly lost that ability entirely. On its own terms, I think, obviously, I had to rush through it to an extent today. I want to go and rewatch it, because having listened to you guys who obviously are more familiar with it than I am, there were definitely bits that I missed, and I've come away with it with a slightly greater appreciation for it than I got just from my first quick viewing of it. I think it's the kind of film that you wish could be made today, but couldn't be made today. The fact, though, that it all hangs together is just the thing that sticks in my mind. The fact that it's quite, it's not flashy, it's not flamboyant, it's not a huge, big budget blockbuster. It's just a basic, well-written story with understandable motivations and events that make sense. And it's a shame that that's a remarkable thing, but it is. So I think I'm going to go and rewatch it, because I enjoyed it when I watched it the first time, but I now know that there were lots of things that I just didn't have time to appreciate, which would have increased my enjoyment of it. So a very good film, I think, and one that I am looking forward to seeing again.
He's good, isn't he? Brian?
Solid film. Very good cinematography, I thought. Gripping from the start until, if not the end, then until Mr. Blue electrocutes himself. The only bit I felt was a little bit untidy was the investigation at the end, but it's kind of tying up the loose ends. Well, that's possibly being hypercritical. Otherwise, I thought it was a top film. Great performances all around, especially by Walter Matthau.
Yeah. And fantastic production by you today, so I appreciate that.
Cheers, Brun.
Ben, if you want to throw your channel link in the chat again, go for it, mate.
I will happily spam chat with my channel.
Okay, so last but by no means least, so good we named him twice. Picard, thoughts?
The real New Yorker.
Yeah.
New York.
You guys said it best as far as being it is a love letter to New York, because New York is a character in the movie. You know, if you put this movie in another city in New York or another state, it's a different movie. So it's part of the character. The score from the very beginning by David Shire, who is Talia Shire's or was Talia Shire's husband, is another character in the movie. You get Walter Matthau, who shows he can play serious and funny. The comedy elements, not many, but they're not forced. They don't make you cringe. Nothing is out of place when you have the humor, the subtle humor that flows throughout the movie. You just have a movie that just sucks you in, and when it needs you to be on the edge of your seat, like the car. It's not a car chase, but when the car is speeding, the cop car is speeding to get to the deadline on time, you're along for the ride, and you get nervous when you're first seeing it, when the car crashes, like, oh no, what's going to happen. Robert Shaw is one of the great villains of the 70s. He's just vile, evil, and you would be scared of him because he's going to kill you if you don't live up to what he wants.
Yeah.
And it's easily a top 10 film of mine, maybe a top 5 film of mine. It's just a classic example of why the 70s was a great transition time in movies.
Totally agree.
I would just say the top trivia: David Shire, The Connection, 2010, and Rocky is Talia Shire, isn't it?
Yeah. She even helped, according to IMDb, she even helped with the end score, which was the same as the beginning, but he jazzed it up a little bit. And she was the one that gave him the idea how to tweak it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's it. I think we've got it covered. So I don't know if we're going to be... We've got a Boba Fett show to do at some point with all the slides from the end of... We went through them today, and...
No thanks.
Genuinely,
it hit 50 pages long. It's going to be a long review.
I stopped watching it. I just thought it was rubbish, so I stopped watching it. So I don't even know what happened at the end. And somebody told me what happened at the end, and I'm like, yeah.
Lost Chord, could we kind of amalgamate something between us with the slides and your novel?
Yeah, there's at least a novella at the very least.
Yeah,
there must be a way of doing it. I mean, I've got basically my sort of production for that's all planned, but I'm happy to do like multiple things.
The slides look fantastic.
It's a great idea to incorporate the slides into it as far as it's possible.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do something.
Right. Okay. So we may do that during the week. I doubt it, but we're definitely going to be back for one of the best Star Trek films ever made next week, Galaxy Quest. So, so I think that's it. So, everybody in the chat, you're wonderful. I know that. You know that. Thank the guests. We will see you soon. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Ta-ra.
See ya.